The difficulty here legislatively, the Constitution, which is Bret Stephens' point in the New York Times, which is he's calling for the repeal of the Second Amendment. And he says the United States has by far more guns in more hands than any other country in the developed world. It has by far the highest incidence of firearm-related homicides and suicides. Correlation is not causation, but since Americans aren't dramatically crazier than other nationalities, what other explanation is there? However, it is in our Constitution, unlike other Western democracies.
Yeah.
There they are. Saying, what a wonderful idea in the New York Times. Let's just float it. Let's repeal the Second Amendment. Let's get rid of it, because that's what we really want to do, is take guns from the average person. And this is their big assault. This is their big push. And I don't like hearing stuff out of Eric Trump's mouth about it's no big deal to ban people up to 21 having firearms. That's all about discriminating against everybody else that doesn't do anything wrong just because the media and governments sit there and promote mass shootings and create these victim disarmament zones. And then they have almost every one of these shooters under state care on psychotropic drugs, and the insert of the drug class says it can cause you to have psychotic breaks and engage in mass murder. They knew that back in the 70s and couldn't get serotonin reuptake inhibitors approved because they caused psychotic breaks in a few percentage points of people. I've known women on these drugs because women is the largest group, and I've had girlfriends, a couple of them, and if they drink one beer, their pupils go all the way out, bigger than somebody on PCP. And they just are totally insane. And then there, of course, is nymphomaniac activity as well. I mean, it is out of their minds. With just 2 people I've known that have been on it, and you end up taking some other pills with it or something, cuckoo land. Then all these young kids are playing shoot-'em-up video games. I'm not saying ban those. I'm talking about the facts. They're all shoot-'em-up video game obsessed. They're all on serotonin reuptake inhibitors. I mean, I haven't seen a case where they aren't. Basically, it's all of them. Every major mass shooting. And then they're about half the time in state care. And then you get another stand down, the bizarre statements of this sheriff that are coming up, where he's doing a fantastic job and he's fantastic and it's not his problem if his deputies don't go in and stop shooters. Total dereliction of duty. It's incredible. And then we know the big plan. It is to get rid of shooting sports. It's to get rid of young people even being able to shoot firearms with their parents. We've already seen all the bills they've tried to get through before at the state and federal level, and it's to ban anybody until 18 to 21, depending on what state. The Democrats have pushed this. They even tried it in Texas, which got me politically involved 25 years ago, to say that anybody under 21 in Texas couldn't even touch a firearm or even have their grandfather or father or anybody buy them a firearm. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to be very calm today. I have to be, because I've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Because what I should have opened the broadcast up with is our top story, and I'm going to go over all of it here today. A lot of times I don't recognize what's happening until I'm already wrapped up in the baling wire. But you're getting in here first, and no one else is announcing it, and I wish people were. And it took me until this weekend to figure it out, and now it's crystal clear. I just got chills. The globalists are launching their full revolution against us right now, and it's going to be a lot more than just the guns. We're going to come back and talk about it on the other side. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Fruget, the operations director here at Infowar, just walked in seconds before I went live on air. He was just here. And he said, it's incredible. You called me last night and you predicted that this would happen this week. I've got it right here on my phone when I called him last night. And sure enough, he just walked in and he said, we've got biggest DDoS attack ever, even though we've got all these backup servers that has brought Infowars down. He's like, how did you know that would happen today? And I said, well, it's obvious. CNN is on television, not operating as a news agency, but as a criminal globalist combine involved in a purge. And that's the headlines we sent out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter on our backup accounts because they've shut us down on YouTube being able to stream. And they are moving to remove us from the internet. And if you notice the headlines I put out at the start of the show, when it went live, 5 minutes before Tim Frugier walked in here and told me what just happened, the headline is, there is a massive globalist Democrat purge of thousands of established conservative, libertarian, Christian, pro-Second Amendment sites. Yeah, it's not just the famous baseball player that simply sent out a tweet pointing out that the 4 young people we see out of the 3,000 students clearly have been scripted. They spin that and say Kurt Schilling says they're all actors and the shooting never happened, and then he's banned from the Hall of Fame. It's a giant Schilling effect where they're going after the Second Amendment, they're going after the NRA, they're going after gun shops. They're saying, we're not going to let you have credit cards, NRA. We're not going to let you have merchant accounts. We're not going to let you operate in society. And it's the big banks with the media and the whole system, and the main targets are the Trump family, Infowars, and the NRA. They're attacking people they fear that tell the truth, understand what's happening. They're going after the Motor City madman Ted Nugent, who happens to be on in the next hour. They are telling incredible lies on Colbert, on Kimmel. They will misrepresent what people said. CNN Friday said, we are in consultation and inside Alex Jones's accounts on YouTube and working with them to have his sites and his presence on YouTube banned. And then they had Glenn Beck, Dan Rather, and David Hogg, the young man, the senior, on TV talking about banning the pollution of Alex Jones. And Hogg didn't agree with Beck and Stelter and Dan Rather on the same show. He said, oh, they've made me really big saying the shooting didn't happen and that I'm a crisis actor. We didn't say that. Nobody said that about you. We point out you're in the drama club, you're an anti-gun activist, you've been involved before, you're in the journalism club, your mom works at CNN, your dad works for the FBI. Out of 3,000 students, television's the David Hogg channel. We're just saying you're an anti-gun spokesperson. And so they spin that and we're bullying children, put it in newspapers across the country, never quote us, and then move CNN as a supposed news agency to shut Infowars down. Then I start getting flooded with hundreds of phone calls, hundreds and hundreds of emails, and comments everywhere where established pro-military firearm review sites, just normal commerce, the stuff the military and the police buy, being totally banned, where they just black out all your videos, they delete them. Here's just one example, Military Arms Channel, huge channel, reached hundreds of millions of people, hundreds of their, every one of their videos deleted. Just reviews, range day, hunting. Oh, see, they want to ban the Second Amendment and they want to ban the speech about it. And I told everybody on Friday, I said, you hang together, you hang separate. Only Matt Drudge linked to our article on Friday night and to the 2 banned videos that YouTube banned. We hosted them on our own server. As of Saturday evening, there were 7 million views. I haven't looked at it. I dread to see what the views are now because just that was $3,400, I know, on our own bandwidth. And I said right there, I told Tim Frugier last night, I said, man, they're not going to let us actually show what we really said because they can't do that because then it shows what liars they are. They're going to try to take the sites down. So Infowars.com is down right now. That's why we have newswars.com. and prisonplanet.com. And I'm sure those listening will now hit those. But this is what they're up to, and they're doing it to a lot of other people right now. Dana Loesch got up there, and they said, you are a murderer. And then they started saying, burn her, and she had to get out with security as people rushed the stage to attack her. They have kill the NRA signs up. They have hashtag Hunt Republicans on CNN. There are mayors all over the country. I watched one this morning in Oakland saying, we will not allow any deportation or any federal officers ever here. And we're telling people to resist when they come. Racketeering, you name it. They said, you're coming with warrants for MS-13 at drug houses for people deported sometimes 20, 30 times. San Francisco lets people off that shoot women in the back and admit it. And they go, we're letting you go as a symbol. Do whatever you want. And I'm sitting there this morning watching her live on CNN, the mayor, saying, I'll go to jail. And here's the big announcement. I've known this and understood it, but it really hit me. They have radicalized and criminalized even the lowest level Democrat now. They have activated them through social media, through all their manipulation, what Sean Parker talked about, the dopamine manipulation, the fake bots. Under fake peer pressure, they have got them just vicious. I mean, if I walk on the street in Austin, 20 people walk by, 10 of them say, hi, Alex, keep it up. One of them starts trying to attack me. Men, women, children, you name it. They are totally, and they start screaming, Nazi, Nazi, Russian, Russian. They are just, and they believe they're allowed to attack. Once you get back and get ready to knock them upside the head, they go, what are you doing? I'm just going to spit and attack you. I'm allowed to attack. It's LARPing. It's live action role playing. And they always look mentally ill. They always look disheveled. They always look like they're just totally whacked out of every race, color, and creed. Even if they're getting in a nice car, they'll kind of stumble, and they're not awake. They're in a trance state. They have been hypnotically put into a trance. This is medical. This is mainstream news. I see articles every day where admitting kids are in a trance state, near sleep state, from the smartphones, the TV, all of it. So there is a full-on criminal attack where you've got CNN saying, cops get killed, it's because cops are bad. They want to bully you into going under federal control, which a lot of cities are doing, and under UN control, under the strong cities. They're just ignoring serious, hardened criminals that are here, saying, we're not going to let you deport them. They are savagely running around saying, oh, Alex Jones bullied children, and then deleting videos where we show, just from last week, 3 different youth in the school saying there were multiple shooters, and now more of that's coming out. And then they totally misrepresent and say it's something else. And then we try to put up the videos so you can see them, and they just took our site down. And this is going to post this to newswars.com. Everybody, as soon as it goes up, they may take that site down as well. You've got to get this information right now. You've got to get it out. Parkland teacher said full-on military gear, not him. Like the other students said, they saw people in military garb, not just one, and that it was wearing a face mask, everything. And there's witnesses that, again, the shooter was with other young people when this happened. The eyewitnesses have been on the show. It's been on the local news. So that's why they're so desperate. It turns out there is a cover-up here. The official story is not true.
We've been actually talking about that for a long time. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question. You can shout me down when I'm finished, but let me answer Emma's question. It is not federal law for states to report convictions to the NICS system. It's not federally mandated. That's the big question, and I wish that this network had also covered this more, as other media networks would have covered it. That's a huge... Wait a second.
You guys, if I can't hear her statement, I can't come up with a rebuttal. Please.
Wait a second.
And they're chanting, burn her. Not lock her up for crimes. She hasn't committed any crimes. But burn her. How Me Too? Why, Harvey Weinstein just reportedly raped women, not burn them. Well, what a nice group of people. By the way, Infowars.com is down. And while you still can, I guess you can visit Infowars.com and Newswars.com. Obviously, I need to call Paul Watson and have him write an article about it for Newswars.com. I'm sure the only site that'll care. This war on free speech is going on is Drudge. Other than you, the radio affiliates and the listeners and the TV affiliates, This is just going on like it's no big deal. CNN comes out and says, we want Alex Jones banned. We want him off YouTube. We're meeting with YouTube to have him banned. Glenn Beck comes on and says, yes, these platforms aren't doing enough to stop Alex Jones by name. They then have Dan Rather and Stelter in the same hour. They're all in the same hour together, reliable sources, all call for them to tap down and stop this pollution. And so you're hearing the pollution, ladies and gentlemen, and what is it? The videos they banned were not us saying that the shooting didn't happen. Videos they banned were not of us saying they were crisis actors. The videos they banned was us asking why out of 3,000 students are there only 4 of them we're seeing on the news. It turned out CNN was staging town halls. And there it is right there, Glenn Beck, conspiracy theories. I already played this stuff yesterday, but I'll get to it today. But imagine how surreal this is. And then they're going after the NRA. They've got all these companies dumping them. They're now getting banks to say, once they build up this whole new hashtag, to now say all gun owners and guns themselves are to blame, then the state will use the guns to control us. And the left always has a talking point. They go, Jones first claimed the military and police were coming to put us in FEMA camps, but now he says the military and police are good. No, I said the military and police were good. They told me about it 20 years ago when Bill Clinton was trying to get them ready for it. And then Obama expanded it. And Bush expanded the police state, but the whole arrest the Christians, arrest the patriots, that kind of stopped for a while. But remember all the MIAC documents and Homeland Security documents that federal police, federal agents gave us? Remember all those exclusives? They were worried about it. And that's what. And then when the cops wouldn't roll over to the globalists, the cop killing starts. And then Loretta Lynch shows up with the Strong Cities Initiative and says, let the UN take control of you through Justice Department power. But they'll advise you, kind of like the UN until 6 months ago was running. 6 months ago, took Trump about 6 months to get it in place. Took us about 8 months ago. That the State Department got orders from the UN Refugee Board. This went back to Bill Clinton. And that the UN said who got to come into the U.S. Look it up. Trump's like, that's insane. We're killing that. Took him 6 months into his administration to get it done. So when I tell you they wanted the police under UN control, just search engine. Their speeches, I've played them. You can't make this up. See, I said I'm going to be calm. I've just got all the pieces here. They admit it. They are in one unified criminal group. You know, Kimmel attacked the president. He attacked the president's son. He attacked Ted Nugent and said that they said nobody died and that it's all fake. But didn't show Ted Nugent saying it. It didn't show any of that. And when you know what he's doing, everything he was saying was a lie. Everything. Everything. It was so sick. Oh, man, I tell you. And then you know that Jimmy Kimmel admitted 3 months ago that for the last year, he talks to Chucky Schumer's office sometimes hours a day, and that they write his monologue. So he's going, nobody's got talking points. I don't. The kids don't. This is ridiculous. And you've got CNN caught running fake town halls for years, running fake debates, fake questions. It's all in the WikiLeaks. Fake polls. And then Kimmel says, in past shows, he goes, oh, this is me personally. I don't appreciate you saying I'm a father. These kids are real. And then he thinks we're so dumb. He's in the New York Times a couple months ago going, I'm really best friends with Chuck Schumer now. But see, that's what they do. In their own publications, they go, we're going to repeal the Second Amendment. Play the clip earlier. We're going to break the families up. Christianity's going to be banned. We're going to bring all the Muslims in. And you're reading this in their own publications. And then they go on TV and lie to you because they think you're an idiot because just like he has the fake news thing where he goes out and tells people that Wakanda's real and the Black Panther's real and all these LA people think it's real. People are trying to, by the way, book flights. It's in the news to Wakanda. I predicted that last week with the crew. So he knows he's got an audience that thinks Marvel comic movies are real, okay? And he's just in there savaging those poor people. Now, here's why they're so scared. I know there's real shootings. In fact, I don't see almost every time they end up being on psychotropics. Everybody gets warned. the first witnesses told us the video they banned was people saying there were multiple shooters, 10 police cars pulled up, they didn't go in and help anybody, and then there were soldiers inside moving the bodies, and then the police went in later. We now have 6 different newscasts with teachers and with students saying, and I've played this, and I didn't realize what they were so scared of. That's why they're hacking the site right now. That I haven't looked at the numbers since Saturday. The 2 banned videos on YouTube had 7,100,000 views by Saturday night. I don't know. I don't want to look at the bandwidth because I have to pay for it. But the point is that as soon as Zimmerman gets in, because he's been working 7 days a week, have him print me the latest data on that. I want to show viewers right off our servers. When we come back, this is what they're scared of. The minute this went up, the site went down, which, by the way, you can't do unless you have access to the servers where we have them, because we stuck our servers in places where you have to have the internal switches. This is not a normal DNS attack. They went in at the governmental level. Oh, and by the way, see how it all ties together? What's in Reuters right now? Apple is going to store its cloud keys for the entire planet in China. And under Chinese law, the Chinese government will run it. It hit me this morning, even before this happened. This is the global assault. They're probably going to start blowing up federal buildings, shooting more schools. Get ready. Get ready. They're coming. This is it. They're coming. This is it. They're going to try to kill the president, I'd say, in the next 2 weeks. We know they've already been trying. They're going to start false flagging. This is it. Get ready. Everybody, if you have children in public schools or you work in federal buildings, I would get out. I would get out.
Conspiracy. So conspiracy, and by the way, the person who was behind that conspiracy is the same guy behind a lot of these conspiracies, Alex Jones. Politico described that as something at the time. They said, well, that's just things that people are saying because they don't like the other guy. That's the problem. We're willing to accept things about the other guy because we don't like him.
Well,
and
as bad as the line was after 9/11, what's worse now are the social networks, that they spread these crazy theories to millions of people. What should the technology...
What's worse is these social networks. And he went on earlier to say get rid of the pollution. He says it again. So this is a so-called news agency that's so discredited, caught lying about everything, lying about Scud attacks when they were in Atlanta, claiming they were in Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is all famous. Fake town halls, fake debates, fake questions, fake questioners, fake polls. And then they have a fake story that we said the shooting didn't happen. And they take down, CNN takes down. CNN files complaints as they talk to executives and said, why aren't you removing him completely? Well, they've blocked our mainstreams. They've done all this other tortious interference. This is incredible. But see, Stelter's supposed to run your life. Glenn Beck is supposed to run your life. Look at these two. Failures, both of them. No ratings, operations collapsing. CNN and Glenn Beck's operations are twins of admitted failure, just collapse. Beck's lost half his stations. CNN's going into free fall. Reportedly, Beck is a basket case who believes he's like the Christ. And I knew this years ago. I said, really? No, he thinks he's like a Messiah. So you've got the guy that endorsed Hillary Clinton and then apologized to Obama, saying everything he said was wrong, who now goes and falls on his sword with little Stelter, Humpty Dumpty, saying, oh, you know, you used to be a conspiracy theorist yourself. Yeah, until you joined the dark side. And so they go on. Alex Jones, yes, he's the one that said we stood down on 9/11, that said there's globalists siding with Islam inside our government. Brennan's a Wahhabist. All this has come out, the 28 pages. Rand Paul's covered it. Congressman Walter Jones has covered it. Senators have seen the 28. It was a stand down. They knew it was going on, bare minimum. They translate that into, I said the firefighters blew up the building. Never said that. It's like saying, oh, you say the government's corrupt. You hate the post office people? You think they're tyrants? See how they play that game? Hey, these kids work for the Democrats that are admittedly in PR, and Why are we only seeing them on TV? And why does this town hall look fake? Turns out it's all PR. But a shooting happened. When we get done with Beck here, I'm going to play the clip they don't want you to see. Infowars is up and down because we have backup servers and things like that, but it's a big attempt to shut it down, to take it down. Newswars.com, prisonplanet.com. We've mirrored the video and we've mirrored the article, but this video is not on our servers. They'll take this down. And what they take down is Good Morning America. What they take down is KHOU. What they take down is the local Miami station. And they don't take them down saying copyright. No. CNN says these videos are bullying children. And then what they are is young adult seniors on my show and on local news saying the same thing. It was weird. They took us outside. It was a fire drill. Didn't it, like 10 police cars pulled up? None of them went in. The shooting was then going on. This went on for 6, 7, 8 minutes. The deputies wouldn't go in. And then, we saw men inside while the shooting was happening that were Army. That just means look like Army uniforms. And they were piling the dead bodies up in the corners. And then we've got video of the SWAT team with body bags during the shooting, putting body bags in the back. I mean, was it Islamicists that attacked? Just like Vegas, I was told by the FBI, no, this guy was doing gun running. Paddock, he was meeting with them. It was a gun deal. They had the Saudi Arabians in town, the military, for a big summit, close to, what was it, 10,000 Saudis, and that there was a revolution inside the Saudi government, and this was a threat to Trump, that you better watch out. We could take it right to your hotels and casinos. That all basically came out later, and they admit there's a cover-up and won't say what happened and said, maybe in a couple years we'll tell you. I mean, I really got the call from the hostage rescue team. Just like I got the internal government documents, how Obama was planning to go after gun owners and veterans from the FBI and federal marshals, because there are patriots in there. But they say, I hate the FBI and hate the police and hate the military. It's all crap. That's where we get our information. That's why they're so upset. And ladies and gentlemen, this is all happening. Now, let me just say this very succinctly so I can take a minute of this and put it on the front of the second segment, the third segment, so we can just crystallize this. The globalists are launching the biggest assault on commerce, free speech, the First Amendment, gun owners, veterans, Christians, libertarians. It's being purged on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Banks are saying that, major sporting goods stores and Cabela's and the NRA can't do business. It's serious racketeering when they're legal, lawful businesses that sell to the public for stuff that isn't even about self-defense, which is the prime right, but hunting, everything being targeted. Anybody that sells guns. It's total harassment. The media is calling for it. They're calling for the death of the president. They've got Antifa on the streets with guns telling people they can't demonstrate. You've got mayors all over the country saying we're warning people of impending ICE raids. We have the police department watching the feds when they try to raid MS-13. We're telling them they have a right to resist, that it's an unlawful arrest. I'm watching the mayor this morning. Sure you can find the clip saying, do not comply, do not open the door, it's an unlawful order. That's saying resist. You look at the law, that's racketeering. All of that. And by the way, ICE has general warrants to go to these addresses from what they have from sworn witnesses. So they're saying don't listen to lawful warrants. That's called civil war. That's what happened when the South, in the early 1860s, and I'm not choosing sides here, but it was the South, began to say, we're not going along with what you say. And then the whole thing started kicking off. That was cities and states at first doing that. We've got Austin, Texas. We've got Denver, Colorado. We've got more than 100 cities that are large saying, we don't care if you shoot a woman in the back, we're going to let you go. We don't care if you're an MS-13 and been deported 15 times. We don't care if you're an aggravated felon. This is all admitted. We don't care if you came here from Saudi Arabia illegally. You can stay. And remember the feds 2 days in to San Bernardino were saying they're not Muslims, no Muslim connection. They're screaming Allah Akbar as they attacked everybody around the Christmas tree. The neighbors were all afraid to say anything. They're so politically correct. That's how big a cult they're in. That an illegal alien deported 4 times with all these felonies shoots a woman in the back for fun, and the liberals go, "You go free, brother." So that's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. You look at who on these videos, who ICE is walking out, it's guys with tattoos all over them, MS-13. But that's what's going on. And you do that in Mexico, they ship you out, but after about a year of forced labor. So I'm going to come back with the back, and then I promise I got to get these clips. What they don't want you to know is the video that's now up on newswars.com. Parkland teacher shooter was wearing full metal body armor, helmet, and face mask, which is what the other students said by name on local TV, that there's shooting going on and all this stuff and all hell breaking loose, and there is Cruz with nothing, his gym bag, no weapons, no nothing, while it's going, and then now more witnesses, and we've had them on. And then CNN reaches in and says, you can't see that, and has it deleted. And now Infowars is being hacked and being taken down because they're desperate to keep you from knowing about all this. But here's the bottom line. The globalist, when you study warfare in a asymmetrical type 21st century guerrilla warfare system like this, it starts informationally, then it's intimidation, then it's financial, then the violence ratchets up, then they use a bunch of false flags to bring in the full takeover. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the most hated, the most reviled transmission in the eyes of the globalists worldwide. We are their enemy because we know their operations, we study them, we know their plans. And we're taking the country and the world back from them right now. But let me make the announcement. We're in the middle of a civil war. Now, I told you the Democrats were pushing one towards a civil emergency the day Trump won. And a few months later, they had that talking point. That's because I understand how the CIA overthrows modern governments. And it's not the entire CIA. It's the leftists. It's the big foundations. It's kind of the Harvard mafia. That's what they call themselves. And they're embedded in everything. They don't do the killing. They don't do the fighting. They just sit there and run around robbing the country and selling us out to communist China. They're transferring all the computer codes for Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, all of your codes to China. They are letting communist China run the cloud so that they can now merge with China. This is a takeover. Hillary was supposed to open the door when she got elected to a total Chinese takeover of all of our media, everything. This was, and U.S. stay-behind networks of patriots that have been aware of these plans for decades were burrowed in. They were inches away from a military coup against Obama, but they went with another plan. I've told you about this, to instead engage in information warfare with the truth against the globalist and get Trump in. And what you're seeing is an American president, an emergency stabilization, but we've not gotten the whole country back. We've got beachheads. We turned the economy back on to show you it was artificially controlled. We're doing everything we can. I'm just a private citizen fighting these people who just naturally grew into the research of this and understood it and built a platform to oppose the globalists that then fit in when the time was needed for the defense of the republic. But this is the defense of the republic. And we have an incredibly honorable president with a lot of courage. We have a lot of good citizens across the country, you namely, that are supporting us. But I've told you we're entering the false flag time, where they'll either let people attack that are mentally ill, they'll stage it themselves, they've been caught doing it before. And then where, if you point it out, you get banned off of Facebook, Google, Twitter, all this. They're not just going to ban you there. They're going to shut down your business. They're going to come after you. And they think you'll shut up and just go along hoping they leave you alone. But now thousands of conservative and veteran sites and pro-gun sites and Christian sites and libertarian sites, they're all being banned right now by the thousands, If you want to go to Infowars.com, it's back up for now. It's watch these videos, these Infowars videos that were banned by YouTube. And you can see our statement there and our breakdown of the whole situation. And the videos they don't want you to see are Hogg being given questions and saying, is that okay? How do I say this? How do I say that? We're just pointed out he's being scripted. We're not saying the attack didn't happen. He's a crisis actor. But the other video they took down again and gave us a strike is eyewitnesses on KHOU News, local news, and others saying that there were multiple shooters and that they were with Nicholas Cruz while the shooting's going on. And that outside, it was a fire drill already. They go outside and there's 10 police cars sitting there, and that there were men, army men, that just means men in military garb, inside wearing full mask, piling bodies in the corners. Now, in the interest of time, I've already played these videos many times, and they're on the side if you want to see them. I've already played them probably 6, 7, 8 times a piece, but CNN is flipping out, and so are others. And remember, this is how it all came together. The Project Veritas videos of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, the New York Times, and the New York Times head guy, liaison with YouTube, and the YouTube liaison that's high level, are saying our main job is to stop Alex Jones and anything like it, and to shadow ban it and not let people spread it and block it. And I'm putting video on screen for people that want to see the name of the video and where it's at. So I've already played this probably 20 times. And that's why it's so critical. And they said, oh, we actually run YouTube. There's a consortium of big media that's interfaced in our war against America. They actually say this. And they're like, what do you mean war against America? One of the other videos go, well, we don't allow American flags. You like American flags or veterans or anything, you're banned, but these dumbasses don't eat, these dumbass rednecks, that's anybody that's white, they don't know they're banned. We call it shadow ban. And in all the videos, they laugh and, oh, they're going to get you. It's so crazy. So what do they not want you to know about? There's another one. This was on Good Morning America. This stuff slips out when they have people on that they thought, that they talked to and they thought they know what they would say. They're not really scripting them. They just try to script the interviews. Because, I mean, anybody that's been on CNN or Good Morning America knows. So you're going to talk about this, right? And we're going to go here, okay? And then let's just stay on these topics. Well, she goes off script, and she got shot, and talks about what she saw, which is what everybody else saw while they're with Nick Cruz, who we just kind of went along with the media. Okay, I mean, he's the shooter. Then they said, we said he wasn't the shooter. And why was that? Because they wanted to discredit the idea and say, you'll be taken out of the Baseball Hall of Fame, you'll be fired, you'll be destroyed, you'll be whatever, if you listen to the students, if you listen to the victims, if you say there were multiple shooters, if you say there was a police stand down, if you say CNN faked the town hall. The town hall's been admitted fake now. The scripting by students, the four, not all the real students. And by real, I mean real grassroots, not scripted. Again, if you're a TV viewer, I'm putting on screen just the video of all the people saying this so you can know what to go look at and know what to go pull up. It's on Infowars.com. So here it is. Parkland teacher. Shooter was wearing full metal body armor, helmet, face mask. Survivors offered strange description of encounter with killer. A teacher who was grazed by a bullet while saving students during the school massacre in Parkland, Florida, offered a detailed description of the shooter during an appearance on Good Morning America that adds confusion to official narrative. But what she says was exactly what all the students say, except for the four. You got 3,000 students, you only hear from 4. All the others say it's all scripted, they're being lied, there's multiple shooters. Duh, shows get shut off or they don't play it. Stacy Lippel, a language arts creative writing teacher at Marjorie Stoneman High School, came face-to-face with the shooter on February 14th as she ushered terrified students into her classrooms for shelter. She crouched during a she chronicled in her encounter during a sit-down interview on Good Morning America. And then it gets into how weird it was. It gets into how it doesn't match up with what other mainstream media wants you to hear, but matches up with what all the other students are saying. So right now we know this. We're going to come back and play the video in 1 minute. We're not supposed to question anything while the left says Dana Loesch and the NRA are murderers, kill the NRA billboards, stay up, kill members of Congress, kill everyone, kill, kill, kill. We're going to ban your guns. We're not going to let you have bank accounts. We're going to confiscate them. Okay, we do want to repeal the Second Amendment. And then I see the other conservative sites and everybody, even as they're getting censored and banned and stuff, going, oh, well, we'll beat them this time again. This is their main assault. It's red alert. Democrats admit they're not coming for the second. They're coming for all the amendments. So that's coming up on the other side of this quick break, ladies and gentlemen. There is so much more to break down here today, but they are openly calling for us to be banned and us to be taken off. They obviously want to shut us down. They're trying as hard as they can. They admit that's their plan. Other so-called news agencies like CNN. And I'm simply asking you to pray for Infowars, but to understand this isn't about Infowars, it's about us all. They're coming after everybody's free speech right now. They are coming after it. They are admitting they're doing it, and the way they're pushing and building up the rhetoric and the violence and all of it is by design to create a climate so when they kill the president and try to order people to turn their guns in and do all of this, people buy into it the first increment. It'll only be a partial gun ban. But once you've learned to bend over, this is how authoritarians do it, you will give into the whole thing. I've looked at the profile. I predicted quietly to my crew last night we'd have a hack attack today. I know the enemy, and I'm telling you, they are guaranteed got their black op globalist squads looking to bomb federal buildings, attack more schools, just as I predicted in the weeks before this, that there is something big going on here. And if they can't find Prozac heads who are violent, who they can't wind up, they'll set one up who fits the profile and run an operation. And I don't think the students are involved. I don't think the teachers are involved. I don't think the sheriff's department's involved. There were drills that day, drills weeks before. We've had the students on. Something weird happened. And it's very easy to run a false flag where you do this and then set up a mental patient who's been under state care. 30-second plug. We had to end the toothpaste special because it's about to sell out, a bunch of others, but we got a bunch of new specials, 50% off, but those are on items that are about to sell out as well, like DNA Force, 67% off. I'll explain why we're going to do that later. Knockout, 33% off. True Whey Protein, 50% off. Survival Shield, 25% off. And at these deals, you got to buy a lot of products to fund our operation. Just shop with the good guys, commit to go to our store, get high-quality products, and we will continue to fight and win. But I'm telling you, we just got a beachhead. The main assault is now. The evidence is overwhelming. It's all hidden in plain view, and now the Democrats are saying they've launched the last battle of the Civil War against America. States all across the country with cities are letting MS-13 criminals, murderers, go free and say they're telling the gangs when the feds are coming so they can kill them, and that they're ready to resist, and that the mayors are ready to go to jail. We're in the middle of a globalist counter-revolution against our attempted take-back. We got the ball back, but they're trying to create a fumble, and they're trying to get the ball and convert the whole situation and have their comeback all over the world. They admit this in their white papers. Ted Nugent's coming up. He's been slandered and defamed, saying that, you know, no kids died and they were all crisis actors. He never said that. But Jimmy Kimmel and all the other little slime bags that get their talking points out of Chucky Schumer's rear end, and he admittedly gets all his orders from him. They are just in a full court press trying to boycott, shut down the gun industry, not let them do credit card business. That is how you put somebody in a gulag. That's how you violate somebody's rights and shut them down for persecution. I mean, that is the classic. So that's coming up with so much more, and I'm going to get to the clip of the teacher and the description and the other youth saying there were Army men in there. That doesn't mean real Army. The headline will be, Jones claims the Army did the shooting. No, their quote is Army men, paramilitary. So I don't know what happened, but they're banning clips of young people and teachers and folks saying this. What does that tell you? There's good news. You know, there's things like Michael Savage talking about running for the Senate, and all that stuff's great. But if we don't recognize how serious this is, and we're in the middle of their violent revolution and call it what it really is, we're not going to be ready to face it. Let's go ahead and go to this clip. We'll be back with Ted Nugent.
Some very important people have come to me and said, Savage, would you like to run as an independent for the state, for the U.S. Senate in the state of California against the esteemed Dianne Feinstein? Now, you may say, you don't have a ghost of a chance. With all those illegal aliens, with all that union money, with no press on your side, how could you, David, run against the Goliath of Feinstein? So I'm going to ask you, the audience, if I left radio, I'd have to leave radio to run. And I ran as an independent for the U.S. Senate against Dianne Feinstein. What do you think the vermin on the left and the newspaper in each city, owned by the vermin on the left, the state Democrat machine is very powerful, what would they say about me? Jim, get ready for the firestorm, because here it comes. Savage Nation, holding down down the fort for 24 years this March. God, it's a month? 24 years in the radio business. And I am younger than Dianne Feinstein. That's right. And I've been asked by a number of very powerful and important people to run as an independent for the U.S. Senate in the state of California. And I'm contemplating whether I really want to leave what I've worked for all my life and, you know, roll in the mud. Because politics is the dirtiest business on the planet. And I can't say very good things about politicians, with a very rare exception. I'm just probably not cut out for it. But then again, that's what the people want. They want an independent who is not a politician or a lawyer to go out there and represent their interests. And I will say again that if you think the whole state of California is like what Nancy Pelosi represents, you're mistaken. I've lived in this state since 1974. And of course there are large volumes of drug-addicted hippies in high places. Of course there are large numbers of drug-addicted hippies running the newspapers and the television programs. I know what they would try to say about me, but I can guarantee you they'd have a lot of trouble trying to prove what they say about me because it's all false. So what would I run on? If I ran as a U.S. Senate candidate in the state of California, it'd be very simple: borders, language, culture. Same as I've been talking about right here on the show. Nationally, statewide, same thing. Seal the borders. English as the only language permitted if you're going to vote in the state. And culture. I'll let you figure what that is.
We've been actually talking about that for a long time. Let me answer the question. You can shout me down when I'm finished, but let me answer Emma's question. It is not federal law for states to report convictions to the NICS system. It's not federally mandated. That's the big question, and I wish that this network had also covered this more, as other media networks would have covered it. That's a huge... Wait a second.
You guys, if I can't hear her statement, I can't come up with a rebuttal. Please.
Wait a second.
They then began yelling, "Burn her, burn her, burn her." And she said if security hadn't gotten her out of there, they would have attacked her because they were running up on the stage. They have billboards that say, "Kill Republicans." They have hashtag "Hunt Republicans." We're about to go to Ted Nugent to give us his take on this. Now, if you give in to this bullying that the media is engaged in, trying to ban the NRA from being able to engage in commerce, banning gun shops from having bank accounts, that's Nazi Germany when you cut people off because they're a class of people or they have a right. That is what America is all about. And Mexico's got 150,000 dead people, and they have no Second Amendment because only the criminals have the guns and the corrupt government. But I don't have to go through these arguments anymore. The Democrats know that. And speaking right now is the president. I'm getting transcripts of it as it comes in, but I watched it during the break. And he said, nobody talks about the families and the survivors. But I've told the NRA, I just met with them, we've got to do something. And we know they've already floated it. 21 to buy rifles. Then it means young people can't even shoot. That's where they're going. They've always wanted to kill youth shooting, kill the culture. Make it taboo, make it evil. And they're talking about other things when this individual, if he was the shooter, because there's questions of other students, not the four they put on the news, but the four they push, but the ones we've had on, the ones that are on local news, they say over and over and over again that it just makes your head spin that there were multiple shooters and there were like 10 police cars lined up outside during the shooting, and there were men in camo, multiple men inside picking up dead bodies during the shooting, and then they're putting dead bodies in the backs of cars during the shooting. And we have video of confirming what the students say. I don't know what happened there. I don't know, but all the news has said that Ted Nugent, Alex Jones, Donald Trump Jr. said nobody died, and they're all crisis actors that came in, and the whole thing's fake. There's no video of us saying that. We have simply said people are reporting multiple shooters, and why is it 4 kids, 4 young people, they're adults, seniors in high school, on television, out of 3,000. And for that, they're banning our YouTube channel. We've been hacked today. So we can't actually show you what we're saying or what eyewitnesses are saying because they're pulling the videos and trying to block our site so they can lie about what we've done. So we're at a historic crossroads right now. If we give in to this intimidation, every time there's a shooting, which will continue out of 330 million people, even though it's a rare occurrence, a mass shooting, every time it'll be more of our rights taken away. They've now admitted in the New York Times and NBC they want to repeal the Second Amendment. At least they're being honest. So joining us for the rest of the hour is the one, the only Ted Nugent of tednugent.com. He used to have 20 million followers on Facebook, but they deleted it down to 3 million like they did us. So the left has all their fake bots. We have real fans. And he joins us right now, one of the probably the most staunch living defender of the Second Amendment. They've been calling for him to be kicked off the NRA board. Jimmy Kimmel, who gets his talking points from Chucky Schumer, after they defamed him and slandered him and said that he said no one died. Lying pig creatures. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. So he's one of the few people in the same boat as I where they are trying to just absolutely intimidate and shut everybody up right now. We're at such a historic crossroads. You agree with me, Ted, that if we back off now and start giving in when the issue is the stand down by the sheriff's department, this leftist, this Islamist sympathizer, what does the king of the defense of the Second Amendment have to say?
Well, Alex, number one, greetings from a we the people perspective. I appreciate the opportunity to speak truth, logic, and common sense with Alex Jones, and thank you for everything that you do. But believe me, Mom and Pop America, my blood brothers across the heartland, all across this great country, especially here in the Republic of Texas, we are well aware of the orgy of fake news, the runaway dishonesty, the abject hatred that comes from the left. It's not the left isn't bullying. It's pure terrorism when they can get away with such nasty lies, and particularly for those of us who really want to save innocent lives, especially as the father of 7 and the grandfather of 14. And I've had my Ted Nugent Camp for Kids where we've graduated 16,000 young Americans with hunter safety and marksmanship and safe gun handling and real conservation and a clean and sober, be the best that you can be lifestyle. I'm directly connected with the youth of America, even though I'm pushing 70 right now. But believe me, Alex, what you espouse, what you state, when you speak, when I speak, we know that Jimmy Kimmel is a liar. These punks on the left, they cannot debate me. They've tried in the past, and every time they try with their nonsense and their fake news and their dishonesty, I crush them. I literally.
You won all the debates with Piers Morgan, all of them.
I've never lost a debate because which is why they don't invite me back again. But the bottom line is the truth and logic and common sense that you're talking about here. America knows that. You know, you've got your dumbing down of America, which is well represented by the idiots in the media and most of academia and our own government. I mean, our own government is completely out of control, and certainly the hypocrites in Hollywood who have, you know, machine gun-toting armed guards but want to ban you and I from owning a squirrel rifle. I'm just glad that we're able to get the truth out because they keep claiming that weapons of war are used in these shootings. Lie. There were no assault weapons ever used in any of these shootings because no society would send the heroes of our military into battle with a semi-automatic weapon. An assault weapon is a fully automatic machine gun, never used in any of these shootings. I mean, they can't even get the nomenclature proper. They call them clips. There's no clips. Nobody used a clip. They had magazines.
Ted Nugent, the American people, as you said, know that. I sense and I see this as the total assault, trying to attack gun owners, saying kill the NRA, lying about you, lying about everybody else. These 4 horsemen, you know, of the anti-gun, you know, takeover are the only ones we see on the news. Fake town hall meetings. It's on. CNN calling for me to be taken off the air, for us to be banned, and then filing complaints to have. We've now they've killed our live streaming on YouTube. CNN trying to kill the First Amendment. What do we do? And we come back in a few minutes. We'll talk about Trump. We'll have some of the statements here. So he's still speaking, you know, a lot better than Hillary. But, you know, this idea that, oh, we've got to do something and implying that gun owners having their rights restricted, you know, is the issue. What about all the warnings? What about him being on government-issued drugs? What about the stand down of the sheriff's department?
Bingo, bingo, ditto, ditto, ditto. I know how we can win this. We did it in November of 2016. And, Michael, I know exactly how to do this. I know how to get Michael Savage elected by real red state Californians. I know how to do this, and we'll talk about it when we come back.
Absolutely. We got 1 minute till we go to break. Ted, do you agree with me, though, that this is the strongest, most focused, most deceptive attack and the bullying and trying to get the banks to not let the NRA, and if they go down, everybody else, to not be able to engage in commerce? That is Nazi-level racketeering. That's what you do before you arrest the people.
Absolutely. Let me make it perfectly clear. I'm on the board of directors of the National Rifle Association for the last 26 or so years, and I represent mom and pop America, real working hard, playing hard Americans in the asset column who know that we have a gift of life from God and a moral obligation, a constitutional guarantee to keep and bear arms to defend our life. Anybody that doesn't get that might as well call, you know, and see if Michael Moore can give us any points on.
Stay there. Ted Nugent on the other side. This is their main assault. This is it. They know that we're kicking their butt politically, so they're going to come in here and go after everything. What do we do? Straight ahead. So America is founded on the Second Amendment. So-called semi-automatic assault rifles, which they aren't, as Ted Nugent rightfully pointed out, NRA board member, are involved in 2% of federal crime statistics from the entire nation. The FBI reports 2% of gun crime is what you call an assault rifle. It's handguns and shotguns that criminals generally use, everybody knows. But they use mass shootings, which are flat since the 1990s. They're still tragedies. They never report on Mexico's crime rate that's 10 times, you know, 150,000 dead. They never report on all the millions of times guns are used to stop crime. They never show nationally the guy trying to rape women at a liquor store and attacking them, and then, you know, the women shoot them. They never show that. That'll not be on the local news. And when you try to share that on Facebook or Google, they ban it because they don't want you to see that. So Ted Nugent's here, NRA board member. They want him off the board. They want to have a cucked operation. Trump, who I'd give an A+, is like saying, well, maybe we'll stop up to 21. They're still going to get him illegally like Lanza did. So this is crazy. What we need is this sheriff. I'm sure you've seen the clips. He says it's not his responsibility if his deputies are cowards and stood down. He's that arrogant. We'll play the clip in the next segment. And then you've got these admitted talking point young people out there that if we say, hey, you're spouting Democrat talking points, they lie and say that we're bullying children and that nothing happened. It's just next level. So you were also getting into solutions, how we fight back. I mean, this is obviously the big one. Ted Nugent.
Well, number one, Alex, ditto, ditto, ditto. Thank you very much. But here's the most important battle cry of all, and we proved it in November of 2016. Every American that's listening to us right now needs to be a member of the National Rifle Association. That's job one. And not just being a member ourselves, but we need to sign up our friends, our coworkers, people at school and church, at the barbecue, our families. We need to make the National Rifle Association, which is a grassroots organization of families who believe in self-defense and believe in the right to keep and bear arms. It's a self-evident truth. It's not a view. It's not an assumption. We need to make sure that everybody we know are members of the NRA, because the fake news, their number one target is freedom. Their number one target is the National Rifle Association, and the National Rifle Association is rock solid in the asset column of America with law enforcement, law and order, and legal gun owners across this land. So that's number one. But let's get right to what you and I first talked about many years ago. As horrible as Saul Alinsky, Nazi, oppressive, tyrannical left as they are, nothing compares to the curse of apathy in our own ranks. We didn't vote for John McCain because he stood for nothing. We didn't vote for Mitt Romney because he brought a doily to a grenade fight. Everybody listening, you need to get everybody you know, families, friends, co-workers, people at church and school, everybody in your life, to make sure we do what we did in November of 2016 and vote for Republicans and put the pressure, we the people pressure, for a constitutional accountability from our elected employees. What I just outlined, Alex, is the fix. It's how you fix the hatred from the left. It's how you fix the dishonesty of the media and the dumbing down of academia. If we, the people who know better, actually do our job in this experiment in self-government, we can have anything we want, which we proved we got a status quo crusher in November 2016 when a non-politician came in, Donald J. Trump, and represents the real working hard, playing hard families of this country. And if we don't do that, we get what we deserve.
That's right. It's ours to lose. We just won the first half. They've come out of the bunkers cheating, lying, stealing. They've got 20 players on the field. We've got 11. But it doesn't matter. We've got justice on our side. And if we get aggressive and don't get into a backpedaling with all their fake guilting, when the left funded the Arab Spring that killed over 1 million people, mainly men, women, and children who were not radical Muslims, they have blood all over their hands. They're the corrupt ones. The Democrats came out, as you know, on CBS News. Cheryl Atkinson shipped guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. They got caught running that false flag. So we need to be in their face offensively. And the president's doing a great job talking about the sheriff standing down and why weren't the warning signs listened to. Well, that's the point. If all the default warning signs aren't listened to and the cops have been out to his house, you know, dozens of times for him saying, I'm going to kill everybody, it's not even the cops' fault on those cases because the prosecutors didn't do anything. And this guy's, you know, an adult, 19 when this goes down. So it's just crazy to blame. It's like if somebody runs over somebody with a car. When the jihadi ran over folks in New York a few months ago, they didn't blame the manufacturer of the truck. It's just crazy. What do we do to get back in their face, to get aggressive in the face of this Soros? Soros is funding the Women's March. The Women's March is funding these walkouts. And I see Sheriff Clark and everybody going, it looks like Soros is behind this. You don't just organize this overnight. Soros is admittedly funding it. So we need to get out there and point this out.
Well, a lot of our, good guys, conservatives, the NRA members, there's a lot of shouting and fist pumping at the television, but when it comes time to do our job as Americans, we don't get out there and vote. We don't put pressure on our elected officials. Alex, I'm just a guitar player, but every elected employee in America knows exactly what the Nugent family demands, what we expect from them. Constitutional accountability. Americans don't raise enough hell. Americans don't spotlight enough cockroaches with their elected employees. And then in so many instances in California, we're talking about the great Michael Savage running for office. I know real California. California is a solid red state. You only have high crime blue smudges where Democrats and liberals ruin everything. But if you look at the map of America, we are rock solid red except for liberal Democrat high crime blue smudges of hell. So those people in all those red zones, they've got to get out there and raise more hell and vote. And if we what I did in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, Alex, is I wallpaper and carpet bombed the media, and I scolded the licensed hunters, 800,000 plus.
And by the way, they know at the White House it was probably Ted Nugent and of course Drudge and others, but that took us over the top in those former Democrat purple states. I mean, and I know, I talked to folks who were involved. You were working 16 hours a day because you get it. The globalists want to break our will. They want to conquer us. And taking our guns is the ultimate coup de grace. We are dealing with a known group of criminals.
I experienced it in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Of course, we all know that that's why we have President Trump in the White House. And in the media, I was on every talk show and every news show and every rock station and did interviews nonstop for months and months and months in those three pivotal states. And I explained how embarrassing it is to qualify as a reliably blue state in those three states where you have more licensed deer hunters than the rest of the country combined. And I'm telling you, Alex, it was as easy as getting those licensed hunters as a voting bloc. The Teamsters and the union guys that have been lied to and scammed by their union lying, fake news, liberal Democrat leadership. We finally got that voting bloc active, and I'm telling you, Alex, 50 states. We could do it in 50 states. Even if the real Californians in red California. If they just went to the polls, we could unseat the lying Dianne Feinstein, who's on
Stay
record.
right there. Her own party's throwing her overboard. In fact, she can't even get the nomination. We'll be back to talk about the globalists have their storm, we have ours, and we're launching the counteroffensive for America right now. That's Ted Nugent, I still believe. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got some good news here, though, and I've got some bad news. Look at this article that's on drudgereport.com from Infowars.com. It's also on newswars.com. They've been massively hacking our site, the worst ever, bringing it up and down. CNN, again, called for us to be shut down, filed complaints on us, saying we bullied their PR agents, and that's what these 4 kids are, these 4 young people. And then the videos they took down were actually of eyewitnesses saying multiple shooters and that the sheriff's department stood down. Now, I didn't know if that was true or not, but it was on local news. I was playing clips of it. Then I had some of the students on saying the same thing. And then it makes me very suspicious they then took these videos down and lied about what it was. And then I'm watching CNN. They're like, yeah, Alex Jones and Ted Nugent said nobody died. And then the telltale sign is they don't show you. Remember back when they'd attack you for 20 minutes but have you on for 2? They don't even do that anymore. They just lie. But here's the good news. Paul Joseph Watson article. Google searches for buy a gun hit all-time high. Interest in firearms soars after Parkland shooting. There is a graph going back to 2002. And again, Google only started in 1999. So it goes back to the beginning of when they had a graph. And it is, you guys pull up the color version of that for me because this is a little bit blurred from my printout here. There it is. Yeah, blow that up for me or scroll down where it's got the full graph. But that appears to be 10 times what it's ever been before. It's at least 6, 7 times the amount of gun interest we've ever seen in buying a gun, the term buy a gun. So here's what's happening. Every time these authoritarians push and really show us who they are, people then wake up to how serious it is. And I showed the Bloomberg article earlier. We'll put it back on screen. You guys print me a copy of that, thanks. Where they said the Democrats are hoping for apathy and that they think they saw apathy at CPAC and that the crowd wasn't as big and the people seem to think they were winning. Folks, we've only awakened the sleeping globalist system. And we're going to beat them. But as Ted Nugent just said, who is the leading Second Amendment advocate in the country, in the world, for the right to defend ourselves, and again, when he says you've got to work hard, imagine letting them win. Because they know we've already woken up to a great extent. So they're not going to stop now. They're pushing to ban free speech, to not let gun stores operate, to shut down the NRA. They're saying shut it down, kill the NRA. When people are saying we're going to kill you with billboards and let's go hunt Republicans and on and on and on. CNN said that the guy that shot Scalise, just thought he was a monster. Remember when cops would get shot with Black Lives Matter pushing it in Antifa? And CNN would say, well, the cops are bad. They better learn. This is an intimidation. Antifa, all this scum protected by blue states and blue cities. And it is the cancer. And it's crazy. Ted Nugent, you've got the floor. I'm ranting here. Let's get into a path to victory. Operation Paul Revere 2012. We know they're censoring. We know they're coming and purging thousands of mainline veterans YouTube sites, Facebook sites, YouTube sites, thousands it's being reported. There's a major purge like we've never seen, just saying if you've got a gun site, even sites that advertise for law enforcement, they're just banning them, just outright, just saying we don't have a right to exist. They're trying to kill our culture. They're trying to kill the heart of American culture, and they're trying to kill our speech, which is the First Amendment. I mean, this is true authoritarianism. It's so naked. It's so obvious. What do we do?
Well, I'm lucky, number one, I'm on the Alex Jones show, so I know that I'm speaking to people that have a heart and a soul and a brain and know how to use it. But this social media phenomenon is quite interesting, too, isn't it? I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 36 million Facebookers, and I have people that work for the government, and that are these high-tech, mad scientists of this internet technology. And they acknowledge that Facebook tries to control my numbers down to 3.5 million, when in fact on a recent post I had over 20 million responses. So we know the real reach, and the point is that Alex Jones and Ted Nugent intelligent and common sense and logic is alive and well out there, and we prove that when we truly do unite, when the conservatives, when the constitutionalists, when the common sense families of this country truly unite and get to the polls. What President Trump said at CPAC is the most important battle cry of all. Don't let apathy open the door to more America-hating liberal Democrats. We have got to get everybody in our lives that knows this Saul Alinsky assault on freedom and the American dream. We've got to outvote them. And as I said before, Alex, we watched the dumbing down of America shortly after World War II, where our so-called education system didn't educate our children, certainly didn't educate me properly. I had to learn on my own what the schools kept away from me. But now we have a movement because of the horrors, the curse of what Barack Obama and his gun-running attorney general and his meeting Bill Clinton new attorney general and the Lois Lerners and the Susan Rice, scam artists of the left and Democrat Party. They're our greatest ally because they are so vile, they are so criminal and corrupt and so abusive of power that otherwise complacent, apathetic Americans finally woke up, and we had to stop the horror, that's H-O-R-R-O-R, of Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. And when we unite, Alex, we can get whatever we want. But I'm going to repeat it. Start by making sure everybody in your life is a member of the National Rifle Association, and call your elected employees and tell them you're an NRA member and you can't ban evil. You've got to pay attention to warning signs from evil and stop evil. And then regarding the liberal Democrat Sheriff Israel down there in Broward County, I know for a fact, I've studied Virginia Tech and Columbine and Sandy Hook. I've studied San Bernardino and Aurora and Parkland. Do you know, Alex, that it had nothing to do with AR-15s? If the AR-15 was never invented, all of these monsters would have done their evil with a 12-gauge shotgun, which, by the way, is far more deadly in confined quarters with no one resisting. There's nothing more deadly than a goose gun. But these idiots in the media will not tell you the difference between a clip in a magazine and a weapon of war and a standard modern sporting rifle. So thank God you're doing it, and I'm doing it, and Michael Savage is doing it, and Sean Hannity is doing it, and Tucker Carlson is doing it. But we, the people, have to rise up and never, ever again allow a Hillary Clinton or a Barack Obama to trample on the Constitution and the freedoms of this country, and it starts with the First and Second Amendments.
Ted, isn't it weird that Israel's so arrogant? I've got a bunch of clips. Since you mentioned it, we'll play a couple of them on the other side, saying, I'm doing a fantastic job. It's not my responsibility.
Unbelievable.
If my deputies don't do anything. And then, as usual, because the media advertises it's a Bushmaster, it's an AR-15, even though those guns, statistically, as you know, I mean, it's not even 1/10 of 1%, just that particular type, the so-called assault rifles, 2%. It's like the loons always go get that one because that's what the media's advertised you shoot a school up with.
Well, I just wrapped up a CBS television interview here in Texas, and I took my 12-gauge goose gun, and I took one of my AR-15s, and I shot a paper target with the AR-15, and then I shot the paper target with the goose gun. And when no one is resisting and you're in close quarters, there's nothing more devastating than a 12-gauge shotgun with 3.5.
Yeah, if you're going to kill one person and they don't know you're coming, you kill somebody with a 12-gauge shotgun.
And I've studied all these shootings. You know the casual cadence, the slow reloading because nobody could shoot back, Alex. Unarmed and helpless is unarmed and helpless. We need to ban gun-free zones because that's the welcome mat for evil. The president knows that. You know that. We, the people, know that. Now our elected employees have got to be bombarded with
That's right. They've got to be bombarded. They're pushing back hard against our Second Amendment. We've got to fight hard. The media puts a big neon sign pointed at schools and churches, gun-free. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Go here, psychos. Go here. Speaking of fighting the globalist, I sell books, videos, T-shirts, water filtration, air filtration, a lot of accessories for firearms, and also fishing and hunting supplies and I mean, whatever the coolest little cook stove is, or whatever the coolest deal to jump your car is, and we're always updating it, or whatever the best water filtration is, whatever the best non-GMO heirloom seeds are, we sell it at InfoWarsStore.com. And it's how I got over 100 people working here. I got 30-something writers and reporters, and we are reaching tens of millions of people a week very conservatively. Okay, and I'm talking about actually listening or watching. I don't mean just come by the site or impressions on the site. And what Ted Nugent was just talking about is very well documented. I've looked at his Facebook myself when it had 28 million. I remember when it went up to 30-something million, because he's been coming on for 15 years. I remember just 5-6 years ago, and they dial it down to 3 million. Well, not just what he said, his military sources told him. It's now come out, Project Veritas. He's so busy defending the Second Amendment, he probably hadn't seen it. Project Veritas infiltrated Google, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. And they all admitted on video, for new listeners, you can pull it up, that they dial conservatives, Christians, libertarians, veterans groups, gun groups down about 95%. And we dial back 36 million to 3 million. That's basically 90-something%. So there's a real war. When you share the videos, when you share the articles, especially to new people, it's changing the world. You know, my buddy that made King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead and all that, he's more of a libertarian conservative in Hollywood, and that's, of course, Mike Judge. We've gone out multiple times, taking the whole cast of TV shows, and within 2 hours, they're all pro-gun. And I mean, a bunch of Hollywood folks, a lot of them well-known. It's that easy to convert him. He said it's his favorite thing to do. He's got a ranch north of Austin. So it's we have to recruit. They brainwash our kids in school, like Ted was saying. We've got to go out to adults and others and deprogram them. But it takes financial support as well. Google, Facebook, Twitter are trying to ban us. They're blocking us. CNN wants us banned. We've got a lot of great products. The supplements, ladies and gentlemen, we sold out of the fluoride-free toothpaste. I told you at the sales price. But we've got the great multivitamin mix. We've got our high-quality whey. We've got a whole bunch of the highest quality products out there. I'm doing 50% off on 5 different products right now. One of them is a loss leader. One of them is a loss leader. It's still selling good, but we're coming out with an updated formula of it. So DNA Force is 56% off, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com. And it is your commitment, buying the products, that makes all of this possible. So, again, I salute you all. Look at that 96 rating there on DNA Force. Now, back to Ted Nugent. He wanted to say a little bit more about Sheriff Israel and some of the bizarre statements. I may not even waste our time playing them. We've all heard it. He's done a fantastic job. It's not his job. His deputies don't go in and do anything. And I mean, something's going on here, and he's very arrogant like other leftists. And then I want to get into a few other issues here with Ted Nugent, TedNugent.com. So I mean, tell me what you know about this guy. I know you've worked with a lot of law enforcement in Florida.
Well, I've been a sworn sheriff deputy in Lake County, Michigan since 1984. And I work closely with law enforcement all across this country. I've actually conducted federal raids with the U.S. Marshals and the FBI and ATF and DEA here in Texas. And I think I've got something like 10 felony arrests to my credit during the Falcon raids. But my point is that I'm deeply appreciative and respectful of the heroes of law enforcement. And all my fellow sheriffs and all my fellow law enforcement friends down in Florida know that this Sheriff Israel is a left-wing, Hillary-loving, liberal Democrat who got the same directive as all the agencies across this country, Alex, after Columbine, that never again should law enforcement wait outside while the shooting's going on. The directive was clear and unambiguous. Charge the shooting, neutralize the shooter. And Sheriff Israel's deputies failed to do that and stood outside, Alex, while the shooting was going on, in direct defiance of the universal North American law enforcement decree after Columbine to get in there. And remember, these zombie, drugged-up, dopey shooters on every imaginable pharmaceutical, brain-ruining chemical warfare, none of them have tactics. None of them have training. It would be the easiest punk in the world to neutralize, especially if you're a trained law enforcement officer. And instead of going after the 30-some warnings to the Sheriff Israel's agency and the 3 warnings to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and who can expect anything from somebody who goes into the building that says J. Edgar Hoover over the front? And then they want to ban AR-15s. And let me tell you, Alex, if if Eugene Stoner had never invented the Armalite rifle back in the 1950s, the AR-15, if it had never been invented, do you think for a minute that these evil monsters would have decided not to shoot anybody because all they had was maybe a Ruger wrench rifle or maybe a 12-gauge goose gun? It's absolute insanity. And then you've got an otherwise heroes of law enforcement who stood outside Alex while the shooting was going on. This is Planet of the Apes, Cuckoo's Nest, Twilight Zone, Mad Magazine stuff, and we the people are pissed.
And then he wants our guns and then has bizarre arrogance you only see from leftists. Here is Israel saying there's no one in this country who can keep you safer than I. And then we'll play the next clip where he says he's not responsible. Let's play them back to back. Here is the Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, again, one who flew over the cuckoo's nest. Here it is.
I don't think there's a man or woman in this county who could keep Broward County safer than I can. I'm proud to be the sheriff, and I plan to continue on being the sheriff.
As I said, I'm the sheriff. My name's on the door. The people responsible are the ones who took the calls and didn't follow up on them, as it was with the FBI, as it was with any person. Leaders are responsible for the agency, but leaders are not responsible for a person. I gave him a gun, I gave him a badge, I gave him the training. If he didn't have the heart to go in, that's not my responsibility.
He has to be removed now for that insane, arrogant statement. He said, well, we'll do better training. We try as hard as we can, but wow, this guy should be, sued or maybe even prosecuted for dereliction of duty. There's Good Samaritan laws, you name it. I mean, for fraud, at least. Cowardice, I guess that's a military issue. But the arrogant statement, either he needs to be removed or put in a lunatic asylum.
Well, it's worth repeating that the United States Supreme Court determined many, many years ago that law enforcement agencies in this country have no legal responsibility whatsoever to protect the citizenry.
That is so key. I forget that they always say that. We have no responsibility to protect you. That's right. And you got guns. I have a right to have them, especially with your wind-up toy lunatics. And again, Ted, there have been these shootings. In every case, they're on psychotropics. They admit the state had control of them. He was on them. And then he hears AR-15, and then the Bushmaster. And that's the one gun the left has picked to ban all guns, because they can ban all the semi-autos, basically, at that point. And it's just really weird that it shows it's media copycatting. It's always some mental lunatic on drugs who then thinks that's what you do. It's like how you become somebody. I want to be somebody. It's like the Wasp song or something. And then that's what these highly suggestible fruitcakes do. I mean, this is crazy, Ted.
Well, thank you for speaking the truth, and thank everybody out there, Alex, because I know a lot of your listeners come to my Facebook. We have literally tens of millions of Facebookers that celebrate truth and logic and common sense at my Facebook, and that's a great, great campfire to learn how to spread the word and put constitutional accountability pressure on our elected employees to leave our damn guns alone.
We got 1 minute left. TedNugent.com, Infowars.com is our site. And again, listeners, I know you know that, but they're trying to block it. And if you, the steadfast patriots that have got us this far, will keep getting in it's fun to fight, isn't it, Ted? People think it's like work. I get so much energy when I see these dirtbags lying about us, lying about the Second Amendment. I mean, this is an animating contest. We're going to win this thing, and this is what makes America America. And the left's panicked because they know that the sleeping giant's awakened, but the real fight's here, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm in the studio right now recording the greatest record of my life. My band is so good. Jason Hartless on drums and Greg Smith on bass guitar. I get the greatest band and the greatest crew and the greatest team in the world, and we have the time of our life. But in between working hard and playing hard, we have to do our We the People participation hard. We have to keep pressure on our elected employees. And I can tell you, the more you battle the left, the better you feel at night when you go to bed. And the more that I crush the loonies on the left, the cooler my guitar sounds every day. So it really is beneficial. If you fight for your freedoms, then live your freedoms like you mean it.
Amen to that. You've been busy, I've been busy, but you've agreed to do the TV interview, so I'm going to get up there to your place north of Austin here in the next week or so folks can look for that. Ted Nugent, Godspeed. I know I need to let you get back to recording and then fighting some more for the Second Amendment. As you texted me, you said that, what was the quote? You said, we got to keep counterpunching this orgy of lies.
Absolutely. It's an orgy of lies. Aim small, miss small. Kick ass like you mean it, America.
That's right. Awaken America. Ted Nugent, Godspeed. There goes Ted Nugent. We'll be back with your calls, a ton of other breaking news, what Trump really said. I've got the transcript and more. Infowars.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we had Dr. Steve Pieczenik, who was head of psychological operations for the State Department and then ran major CIA operations, a lot of famous operations on the show. And he was saying on David Knight's program that, oh, this is a false flag, event. And I don't censor what our guests say, but I knew they were going to try to ban us online, saying that's bullying. When you have a government that's been known to stage things or let terrorists attack or let crazies attack and stand down. And then the students started saying there was a stand down, there were multiple shooters, and then CNN said, oh, ban that, and then misrepresented what we said. And now all these teachers and other witnesses are coming out saying the same thing on like Good Morning America, but they like cut the interviews and then they pull them down. I mean, we might have to, I don't have a big enough crew, but we need to send investigative reporters there to really get with all these students and really, sit there and have our own town hall and not sit there and just vet that they are students and then just line them up and see, some will be pro-gun, some will be anti-gun, but like every student we've been able to randomly talk to said, oh yeah, there were multiple shooters, everybody said it and they saw them, and Cruz was with people while the shooting was going on, and then that's why people didn't know why they said it was him. And then I had the local newscast saying it, and I've got witnesses saying it, and then CNN misrepresents what I'm saying to get YouTube to remove it. And now Infowars has been hacked and attacked, specifically trying to bring that down today, but we were able to get the site back up. Black students, Hispanic students, white students, all articulate, saying the exact same, and now teachers saying similar things. I don't know what's going on. So Pieczenik was coming on about other issues, but he wants to get into it, and he's there in Florida. And I know he's got a lot of sources. And I remember Pieczenik came on right after 9/11, and he said, no, it was a stand down. They, criminal elements, the government did it. It's actually a plan to allow the Islamists to expand, and that sounded crazy then, but you've seen it happen. And now it's in the 28 pages. It's all there, but it's just like, man, we've got some real criminals embedded in government. And that doesn't mean Trump's involved. It doesn't mean that, that the average cop's involved or average federal agent. It means the criminals are there. And when we go, man, there's only 4 kids we're hearing from instead of 3,000 or the other 2,900 and whatever. The media just flips, the controlled media. And now Hogg, every day, is on like dozens of, I see dozens of clips, and he walks out, and you can tell when somebody's doing a script or has been coached. And maybe he just, he's in the acting class and stuff. Maybe he just is an actor, has his own thoughts, and he's just getting them together. But they're exact Democratic Party talking points. But I have a right to say that. He appears to be coached. He's a young adult. He's a senior. That's what they're saying. You can't even question him, even though he's a major public figure. David Hogg decrees, I will not allow Parkland Sheriff to be blamed for stand down. Wow, he decrees now. We're not just going to have to turn our guns in. He decrees. Man, he's like Jesus, Buddha, and everybody else wrapped into one, isn't he? Let's go to that clip.
I don't want to go back to school until our legislators, at least in Florida, pass one bill, just one bill, where either they raise the gun law, the age that you can buy any gun in the state to 21, or they have a universal background check system in Florida, or literally anything. Because at this point, why should I have to work if my elected officials won't work to save my life and everybody around me?
David, are you, your family, the community, are you starting to hear a rising concern about how the Broward sheriffs operated, staying outside while the shooting was going on?
See, I'm glad you bring that up, and it definitely is a raising concern, that the fact that they didn't go in, but that also brings up 2 things. One, how can we expect our teachers to step in and take action if trained security guards that are part of the sheriff's
which they just keep standing down, and it just keeps being AR-15. So, yeah, we get it. If you ever wondered how you'd see a corporate takeover of America and how you'd see free speech phased out, you're seeing it right now. They're purging gun shops, major catalogs, the NRA saying you can't have credit cards, you can't have banking with us. But if you don't bake a gay couple their wedding cake, you got to pay $500,000. Well, this is going to be adjudicated through all the courts, and they're going to lose. But see, the globalists are planning on a full overthrow. They're planning on overturning the last election, saying it was Russian run, and then having Homeland Security come in, Democrat controlled. It will never have a new election again that's real. We'll be like Venezuela. So you can see it. They get young Politico, anti-gun group seniors to go out and just decree to everybody that we're not going back to school till not one child ever dies again from gunshots. And everyone out there is guilty for every young person that's killed, except for all the Mexicans killed by Fast and Furious, and except for all the people killed by the Islamic State and all the globalist-funded Arab Springs. None of that counts. Or Brian Williams saying he's shot down in helicopters, or Hillary lying, or all the carnage the globalists fund. No, 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 no. Just the 17 they focus on and then blame us for. It's asinine. There's a maxim in authoritarianism where you blame the neighbors of people or the peers for what someone commits. And so if somebody fought back in Poland or in Russia or in Czechoslovakia or in France and shot a German soldier, of a citizen did, they would kill that person and their whole family. If someone shot a member of the SS, they would normally round up much of the town, put them in a big church, that's their favorite, and burn it to the ground. Just look it up. And if you, when they killed, I forget his German name, his nickname was the Blonde Beast, the deputy head of the SS, Heydrich Heinler, I forget. Look up the Blonde Beast, his name. I should have a better memory than this. Einhard Heydrich, yes. They killed a couple thousand people in the town for that, because he was like the deputy of the Gestapo, the vice of it under Heinrich Himmler. Yeah, there he is. And was it in Russia or was it in Poland? He got shot through the neck while driving through the town. Let's look up his death. Let's see if my memory. I didn't read about him since I was about 15. Let's see if my memory from Order of the Death says accurate in the other books I read. So that's how all this works. Just scroll down in Wikipedia to his death, and it'll say which country it was. I remember the death, and they killed a couple thousand. And that's how this works. Oh, 17 teenagers got killed in a gun-free zone. The sheriff's department stood down, and the FBI ignored all the warnings. But that's okay. Let's just blame gun owners. There it is. He was critically wounded in an ambush in Prague, okay, see, by a British Special Operations executive-trained team of Czech and Slovak soldiers who'd been sent to Czechoslovakian government in exile to kill him in Operation Anthropod. And then if you go reading through it, see if my memory's right. He was driving in the open Mercedes, got shot to the neck, and they killed a bunch of people in the town. But that's just a basic boil down. So, again, what I'm getting at here is this is what they do. And, oh, we're going to ban thousands of major YouTube sites, some of them with hundreds of millions that are pro-veteran, that just show shooting clubs. And we're going to ban junior 4-H shooting clubs. That's what they're banning. It's just flooding in. They're banning everything, basically. And CNN's lobbying to ban us. And it goes on and on and on. This is their big assault. This is their big counteroffensive. And billboards saying kill the NRA. And this is what they're doing. And you've got CNN boss Jeff Zucker calls on regulators to probe Google and Facebook. Yes, yes, for allowing fake news. See how they spin it. We want them to probe fake news. And they go, Jones is fake news. It's like Google goes, yes, CNN, you're God. But that's how they change it from censorship to, hey, you're in trouble for not censoring. And, of course, Zucker's out now at CNN, but it's still going on autopilot with his spiritual son over there, Anderson Cooper, and all the rest of it. So I wanted to get Steve Pachinik to pop back in today, and then I got Roger Stone come on and talk about this, because he lives in Broward County. Because I can see a full escalation of violence and tension and boycotts and a crescendo, which the left admits is meant to lead to violent revolution and the overthrow of the president. And I had always warned they were trying to train the military and the police for a leftist takeover, and that was now admitted. That came out in documents just this year that Obama wanted to cause race war, to cause civil war. You can look that up. and it was George Soros' son captaining that. But the police didn't go along, the military didn't go along, it didn't happen. So now, instead, they're trying to just destabilize things so bad to get big mass movements of civil unrest going that I guess Trump just gets in line with them, which he's partially doing to a bit. And guys, did you get the transcript of Trump's speech today at noon? Can I have that transcript? Thanks. So let's get Pachenik's quick take on this, because I'm not intimidated by their censorship. I want to briefly explain this. I hosted both sides of the debate on Sandy Hook, and I couldn't 100% say that nobody died. Even though the school had been closed, then they bulldozed it. They had porta potties there in 2 hours, no emergency choppers, videos of kids going in circles in and out of the building, the same kids. Nancy Grace is there. Even The Daily Show did jokes about this, but didn't point out it was Sandy Hook, with her saying she's interviewing somebody by satellite, and it's the same cars going in circles at a roundabout, and later admitted she was in a parking lot somewhere interviewing the person face to face. So CNN's famous for faking stuff. So we have a right, back to the Gulf War, babies out of incubators, all of it, to talk about it. But I pulled back on Sandy Hook because I couldn't say 100%. They took that as weakness and made their whole Democratic Party strategy about saying Jones says no one dies, you know, get rid of him, he's evil, shut him down. Now they're projecting that onto Donald Trump Jr., Ted Nugent, myself, everybody else. And I was very careful so they couldn't say that. They still went and deleted my videos with eyewitnesses and multiple shooters and the sheriff department stand down. Broke here the day after. Now confirmed. Then they misrepresent what I put out and do that. Pachenik, I mean, you used to be involved in overthrowing governments. You can see the buildup. This is a 21st century version. They admit it's supposed to lead to this. I think Trump and everybody else has a responsibility still not ready. The reason I've been waiting to go to him is the Skype's having problems. What do we do about this? Because they're not going to stop. And I guess the point I was going to make to Pachenik is maybe he's right that this is a total false flag. And by false flag, you could let the guy, you know, do it, knowing he's going to do it. That's a false flag. That's a type. Or it's totally staged. This guy was a patsy. You know, and of course, real kids got killed, but you had other shooters inside. I'm not saying that. They're going to edit that. I'm saying it doesn't add up. They are lying. And they're trying to block videos that show eyewitnesses on local news and that we interviewed that have been proven to be accurate and that there was a stand down. So I can tell you, they're planning something big. They want to bully everybody. They want to keep pushing. Soros has put in tens of billions of dollars into this. He used to just put, you know, a couple $100 million in a year. He has put everything he's reportedly got in because he wants to mount America's head to the wall and have a total authoritarian takeover because he just wet his, you know, whistle on rounding up all those Jews and getting all that money and bragging about it on 60 Minutes that he wasn't ashamed of it, just like the sheriff isn't ashamed of the stand down and says the people are really safe and he's the best guy ever and he's wonderful and he's fantastic and everything else. So we're going to go to break, see if we got Pachenik to pop in. If not, just get him on phone. There's that many problems with the Skype. That's kind of the default for 3 minutes of a Skype problem. We just go to phone. But c'est la vie. So is life. We'll go to break and come back. Please remember, they did hack attack and bring us down for about an hour today. It's ongoing. They're just CNN saying ban Alex Jones, take him off the internet. It's here. So spread the article, spread the video, support the local affiliates, please. And I appreciate your support and buy products. Commit. It's great products you need anyways and great specials. Infowarstore.com, Infowarslife.com, or 888-253-3139. You are what holds us up as a standard against this tyranny. You're the reason we're here. You are the Infowar, and I thank you and I salute you for your support. But it's now more critical than ever. Stay with us. There is a concerted effort to demonize not just the Second Amendment, but anyone who is defending it, and to then lie about them and have them deplatformed. This is the Chinese communist model that Paul Watson wrote about 4 years ago that is now all over the news, where it's called a Chinese social media score, where it ties into your job, your work, your snail mail, your social networks. And if you spout pro-communist Chinese rhetoric, bots watch you through an algorithm. Humans also fine-tune it, and then you get a higher score. If you criticize in any way or aren't enthusiastic even about companies, you name it, it goes down. If you criticize the government in any way, you're banned from electronic commerce. And in a digital society, that's like putting somebody in a concentration camp. Coming to America, China introduces credit score for obedient citizens. 2015. And he wrote about it the year before as well, but that's one of the second articles. Now, I went on to say this is the plan because I read what Silicon Valley says. I track them. There's a story here that is so massive that when I read this last night, I couldn't believe it. And then I saw it in Reuters today, kind of a whitewash. But I read what Apple actually stated. And again, this ties into everything. See, I have an issue. I tend to give you how we first told you about it, and then what they say it's going to do. Instead of doing what mainstream media does, they lie, but they just tell you what they want you to take away from it. I like to get you into my mind so you can understand the whole history of it. But let me just tell you what it is. Apple and other tech giants are putting the communist Chinese government in charge of the iCloud and is moving the store iCloud keys, which means your digital ID, your digital number, your digital internet ID, to China, raising human rights fears. And you read this, and even Reuters admits the government of China runs that and uses it for control as the internet ID over their social network score system. They just mentioned they use it in social networks for social control. They don't give you, because they're Reuters, so smart, the whole backstory. So the headline is, Apple is merging with the communist Chinese government. Let me stop right there. Let me take you a step further. That's why I am agonized, because I can't handle it anymore. See, it just gave me a huge headache because all the connections just happened. Do you remember what happened a month ago, or 5 weeks ago, to be precise? China said we're lowering our taxes to zero for select global corporations that agree to be state monitored, that means controlled, by the People's Liberation Army, by the People's Politburo. And now, 5 weeks later, Apple, that has the worst subcontracted factories with suicide nets in the stairwells around the buildings, forced abortion, 18-hour work days, trying to replace humans with robots, they fully are giving the keys to the kingdom. It's like an Elysium when they hack into the whole, computer code for the deal, and he goes, he's got the keys to the kingdom. They're really doing it. Hollywood's being taken over. The major telecoms. I don't even know if Trump and his people even know how to deal with this themselves, because they're all 50, 60, 70-year-old, and they've got smart analysts telling them what's going on, but it's not getting up through the ranks. I don't even know if these guys can even understand this themselves. Because if they did, there would be paramilitary SWAT teams would be arresting. So there would be 5 divisions of the U.S. Army and Marines would be in Silicon Valley right now, taking it all over and lining people up against the wall and putting them in handcuffs. I mean, it's a total Chinese communist takeover. You know what? I might just shut the show down and leave. If everybody wants this, then just damn well have it. I'm serious. God almighty. And all the weird leftists and CNN and Hollywood, they all love it. They got mobile execution vans, dozens of them in every city, and sell Christian and Buddhist people's organs for just being Christian or Buddhist. What have you people signed on to? The CFR told us the Chinese century was coming. They told us it couldn't be stopped. America was done. And Hillary was supposed to get in. She's on the Chinese payroll. They just made it. It's like, oh, the president of China now doesn't have term limits. He's appointed by the Central Committee and the Politburo. He's appointed by the Communist ruling party. They're just making him a dictator like Mao. A dictator. They haven't had one since Mao. A dictator over the Politburo. God almighty. We have a full-on dictator in China that doesn't have his fingers in every pie and every cake and every... No. It's them. It's them. And they're going to use Muslims to overrun and destabilize Europe. And the deal's already been made. And we're just signing the whole country over. And all these Hollywood scum and all the so-called comics are up there. And just like I told you about the AI and the human-animal chimeras and how they worshiped an AI god, now you're hearing everything I told you word for word. It'll be down the road long after I'm gone when we're under Chinese communist control. And they'll say, that son of a bitch said the Chinese were bad and they were going to take over. And they are good and we follow their orders. You understand? It won't even be he warned us. It'll be he warned us and he's a traitor. And school kids will be taught to hate me and hate you and hate Donald Trump. God almighty. Because they look at 1.5 billion of them and that they'll do anything. The globalists merge with China because they're bloodthirsty and they've killed 50 million little girls. That's very feminist, isn't it? They come by your house. Some people hide the little girls till they're about 1 year old. They take them, and then they go, oh, we've got rich people need them, and they keep the little girls alive till they take their organs. But that's okay. 1-year-old girls deserve it. It's so liberal. Yep, turn me into the woodpecker anytime. I'm not going to quit, but I'm just telling you, if people don't wake up and reject this, we deserve what we get, and I'm going to go further. Listen to me carefully. A lot of the left knows this and actually wants to see, well, that's what the weathermen said they were going to bring in China. And they're actually doing it. Think of the boldness of this. President Trump has to move against them all. If he doesn't, we're all dead. I cannot believe what I'm about to say, but it's totally admitted. You remember about 5 weeks ago when the Chinese government said, oh, we're going to lower our tax to 0, our corporate tax, because Trump went to 15 to match us. But you've got to become state-run in China. Apple just announced, and even Reuters says it's dangerous and crazy. Apple moves to store iCloud keys in China, raising human rights fears. They won't even give the code keys to the FBI in the San Bernardino shooting, but they will give it to the Chinese government where they have their slave factories based that are famous for the suicide nets, the forced abortion, and all of it. And Reuters and everybody spins it like, oh, it's a human rights concern that they'll use it to target people, the Chinese government. It's an internet ID. The Chinese communist system has been chosen for internet takeover. It's called the Chinese social score, where it ties into your bank account, everything you do. China owns the majority of our debt. China has bought up the majority of Hollywood, of Disney. They've got a large piece of News Corp. And no wonder News Corp came out last week and joined with the Wall Street Journal they own and the Google and said they're going to start censoring us. And now, since CNN openly called for Infowar to be shut down last week, we were hacked today. They've kicked our live streams off YouTube. They're lying about what we've really said and done. They are lying about Ted Nugent, lying about Donald Trump, lying about everybody. We have reached a new level. They have banks banning major gun shops doing business. They're saying that the NRA won't be allowed to have credit cards. They won't be able to operate in banks. That's what Hitler did to the Jews, was took them out of banking and took them out of commerce. This is ultra illegal. This is 1 trillion times worse than not baking a gay couple's cake, which I said bake their cake. People have a right to commerce and, you know, come in and say, hey, clean my clothes or whatever. Now, if you violate their rules or whatever, that's fine. But this isn't a free internet where they're just kicking off who they want. These are major utilities advised by China and advised by CNN and told to take us down as part of a takeover. And there's a giant purge against everybody. Major discrimination. This is massive. And CNN's so arrogant, they admit it. And there's next-level deception going on. I'm sick of the whole Russia thing. It's designed to gobble up all the debate from all the stuff they're doing and make us defend ourselves. But Washington Post just said, oh, Roger Stone, the Russians gave him the documents. No proof. They just made it up. They said, well, we're just speculating. But then the media runs with it's true. I mean, if I told you the other stuff I know they're doing behind the scenes, and I'm not at liberty to do it right now, I'm just telling you, pray for Infowars, pray for President Trump, pray for the country, yourself, and everybody else. Because let me tell you something. I've read a lot of history books, and I've just studied a lot of stuff. And let me tell you something. I can see how they're incrementally turning up the heat so we don't respond. They go, we're going to have violent overthrow of Trump, full-page ads in the New York Times, and then articles saying, Jones made that up. There's no full-page ad in the New York Times. And people on YouTube were like, oh, well, maybe Jones is lying. People were like, no, I got the New York Times. It says we're going to have a violent overthrow of the president and blah, 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 and it's funded by George Soros. Because you could go to the website, and it's the group he funds. We can't go to the Capitol. Armed men show up and point guns at our reporters, and the police say, sorry, they're just allowed to. And it's like little skinny, addled people with guns. This is it. And Trump has gotten a beachhead, but I don't think we're up to something this insane because we're just not even ready to face it. It'd be like if one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eaters landed or something. You wouldn't believe it because it's like when the first ship showed up of Cortez 500 and something years ago in what's Mexico today, some of the natives couldn't see it. They'd say, do you see that? Only like 1 in 10. The Spanish notice could even, they go, it was so weird, they couldn't even see it. And people say, well, why did people put up with Hitler? They couldn't see it. Or the Soviet, or couldn't see it. Or what's happened in Venezuela, couldn't see it. They can't see it because you've had freedom so long, it's here. They say it's a violent overthrow, and they're just going to turn it. Now it's billboards saying kill the NRA. Now it's kill congressmen. Now it's kill conservatives, and people just put up with it. And it gets worse and worse and worse. Roger had bad Skype on the Sunday show, and he wanted to, I wanted to have him back on to respond because I wasn't tearing into him because he lives in Broward County, and his son's a sheriff's deputy, and, he was sad from knowing the sheriff. He thinks he's not a bad guy. And that doesn't reflect on Roger. I can have my opinions. He can have his. We're not a cult, as everybody knows. But he said I was kicking him around pretty bad, which I don't think I was, but that's fine. I mean, this is for good radio here, good debate. But all these other big separate issues, we'll get into Broward County and the shooting next segment. In the short one, we know that for any Russian meddling, and of course the Russians meddle, that's what governments do. The Chinese manipulation is probably, what, 300 to 1, 500 to 1? Even the FBI admits that. I mean, 10,000 plus front companies in the 90s. They say it's triple that now. Even Wall Street Journal, New York Times had to admit, Washington Post, that every major state-funded university had basically been taken over by the Chinese government, and now UT just had to remove Chinese intelligence operatives who were on the board of the Army. And Chinese intelligence was running UT. So that was, I mean, this is sensational. That's the town I live in. The Chinese had operatives running the nuclear reactors, 2 of them that no one even knows are there. One under UT that funds a whole skunk works down there that hooks into Fort Hood. I'll just say it all. I'm sick of it. I'm gonna stop right there. And the big J.J. Pickle nuke up north is run by the Chinese government right now, basically. We are wide open. God almighty. Roger, this is light your hair on fire, run down the street naked. I mean, they're trying to invoke civil war. They have their mayors everywhere saying MS-13 will not be arrested and resist the police when they come. I mean, we have entered total lunatic land here. What in the hell is going on? We are seeing they're just going ahead with the takeover Hillary already had planned. They're just going ahead with it. And I'm sorry, we've got to stop it now. Did you hear about Apple is now merging with the Chinese government to run their operations from China and is going to give the Chinese government full access to everyone's Apple ID?
No, Alex, the irony here, quite simple, is they're accusing us of fake news. They're using that as their rationale to shut us off of social media in a slow motion strangulation when they're the ones who are promulgating the false narrative. Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post kind of gave me a stinky Reuben sandwich laced with Schiff. The claim in the Democrats' memo that the Russians sent documents to some Trump insider for review is then tied unfairly and falsely to me. Let's be very clear. I didn't receive any documents or anything else whatsoever from the Russians.
Let me stop you. But do you understand they're using this to make us respond, to divert us? They want a worldwide ID for a global social score based on the Chinese communist model we first broke 4 years ago. And now they are officially announcing, my friend, that since they can't do it here legally, Apple is moving its main operations to China to direct their new Internet ID global system as a new currency, basically, under the Chinese government. This is the biggest espionage I've ever heard of, and it's just hiding in plain view in Reuters. I mean, this is mega level, man.
Yeah, because what it shows is the people in Silicon Valley are interested in cash and profit over patriotism to their country. They'll engage.
But it's illegal to turn all their customer databases over to an authoritarian government when they won't even give the FBI the code keys to one damn phone.
What we have here is the slow motion strangulation of the First Amendment. We're being decimated on Facebook. We're being decimated on Twitter. I have firsthand experience there.
You were banned.
They're trying to shut Infowars off of YouTube. They say that we said that no one died at Parkland. We never said anything of the kind. We did say that children were coached. Tucker Carlson reported the same thing for Fox. Hardly the basis for being banned. They are the fake news, and they try to lay it back on us.
You know, I forgot that. Tucker Carlson said more than I said. But, oh, he can because News Corps behind the scenes is involved in all this, not Tucker. Hey, Tucker, we need all of you to come out and talk about this. Because let me tell you, they're going to shut you down next if they can get us. We'll be right back. I want to make something 1,000% clear because people say, oh, you know, the internet censors you. They're allowed to their private companies. No, they operate as utilities. They violate their own rules. They let people bully and attack you. Then they lie about who you are. And foreign globalist-funded groups like CNN, and it's foreign, says they're in my account working with people to shut us down. And we have the New York Times on video saying the same thing. The New York Times liaison to YouTube about how their main job is that they decide what to censor on Infowars. Tortious interference, the very definition. These big news companies aren't just fake news. They're criminal enterprises involved in dirty tricks, lies, fake events, coaching things. I used to think the people saying it was all crisis actors and a lot of these events and stuff were full of it. I know a lot of people are on drugs. They end to always protect them. They let them do it. There's always police stand-downs in the areas they choose. Yeah, these kids are obviously been scripted. They admit they've been scripted. They're anti-gun. Doesn't mean they're crisis actors. Doesn't mean they're fake. We never said that. And the telltale sign is they never show us saying it. They just say we said it, but then, oh, we're banned. Well, even if we said it, we shouldn't be banned. They're young adults in a public area saying these things. But now I look at all the people saying there were multiple shooters and multiple, quote, army men. We're not saying it's the army. The students called them army men, meaning paramilitary. In there, that there were all these sheriff's cars outside, basically being told by somebody to stand down. It's crazy. And when they ban our videos that are eyewitnesses saying multiple shooters and talking about stand downs, and the stand down has been at least partially come out, you have to then ask yourself, what is going on here? Because, you know, they've got billboards still up saying kill members of the NRA. Roger Stone, look, you're right. You made during the break that Israel has not blamed guns. He's blamed the guy that the guy was, you know, a mental patient or whatever. And he's pointed out that they'd been to his house, but that the people didn't decide to arrest him or whatever. All I know is I see these arrogant statements about, let me give you the exact statements here, that there's no one in the country who can't keep you safer than I can. And he says that he does not have any responsibility for the sheriff deputy who refused to respond. You say, well, this guy will get in trouble. He's fired. Man, most of our deputies aren't like this. This is outrageous. You know, just these statements are I don't want to make it about him because it becomes a distraction. All I know is gun owners are being blamed for what happened. So I want the sheriff to come out and be a champion of the Second Amendment, and then people won't be after his ass. He needs to be clear about this, Roger.
Well, look, it was a surreal feeling watching he and Dana Loesch of the NRA square off because I know both of them. I got to know the Broward County sheriff when our previous sheriff, a Republican, proved to have been corrupted by the Ponzi schemer Scott Rothstein, and his two top lieutenants went to prison for operating the previous sheriff's office, doing political dirty tricks. Now, That said, the real unwritten story here, I think, Alex, is the fact that on one of the occasions that there was a report to the sheriff's office regarding Cruz, he was remanded to the state's Department of Children and Families. He was given medication and mental health counseling, and then after 2.5 months, they were certified him as safe to return to school. Why are we not examining the role of these psychotropic drugs, also present in Columbine and other previous mass shootings? And when we say this, we're accused of being conspiracy theorists or being irresponsible because Big Pharma and the government doesn't want these questions asked.
Exactly. Exactly. So you know the sheriff, I'd tell him to come out and start talking about Big Pharma and be a champion of the Second Amendment. If he wants to get himself out of hot water, tell the truth.
Well, here's the thing. Unlike Las Vegas, I think everything that transpired in Parkland is documented by video. We will be able ultimately to sync that video to the timeline of events. Governor Rick Scott has announced that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement will do a complete review of everything that happened that day. There is no question that one officer trained for 37 years, a guy who taught SWAT tactics, froze in the moment. This evidently, according to a psychiatrist, happens on the battlefield as well. It was an epic failure of his duty. The sheriff called him a coward. The president called him a coward. I have not yet seen any evidence that additional officers stood down. Some students have said otherwise. Let's go to the videotape. Let's find out.
But certainly they shouldn't be banning us off YouTube or banning the videos of the students saying that.
All we want to do here is have a full and open discussion of the issues. Much is made online about a Muslim deputy at the sheriff's department. He was recruited and trained by the previous sheriff, a Republican.
All right, well, moving on from the sheriff in one of thousands of counties. Just in general, though, this is the biggest assault on the Second Amendment I've ever seen, and the racketeering saying that the NRA needs to have its banking credentials pulled and it can't operate in business. That's the last thing you do before you round people up. I mean, that is an act of war. It's sanctions. It's an embargo. They're now harassing citizens and gun owners everywhere. I'm getting sick of it. And I don't want to hear Trump, oh, let's raise the age of 21. Oh, let's ban bump stocks. I want him to say there was a stand down. We need to go after mentally ill people. We need to have the background checks enforced. That's been happening. This guy should have been adjudicated to not own firearms. The guy was adjudicated to not own firearms from the church shooting. But the Air Force didn't put that in the database. I mean, we know who these loons are. You start saying, he reportedly said he's going to shoot up the school hundreds of times. You joke around once, you get taken in, you get questioned, you get a week in jail. You say it twice, you get 5 years in prison. You say it 3 times, we break your neck. I mean, I'm getting tired. I have people all the time threaten to kill me online, and you too, publicly, and the government doesn't do jack crap because it's always in leftist blue cities that they know they can get away with this crap. And it's always these people make me sick, Roger.
Well, let's be very candid. They're using whatever happened at Parkland as an excuse now for their big move to retake control of the political dialogue by shutting down a vibrant, robust alternative media. It's not just us at Infowars, although we are their main target.
There's a giant purge. There's a giant purge.
It's also Breitbart and Daily Caller and individual bloggers and conservatives and liberty-oriented people on Facebook. And we're being decimated.
And by the way, a lot of people are mad at me because they go, Alex, have us on. I've gotten thousands of emails and calls. Every site I ever went, it's all gone. They're just deleting, and they leave the site, but nothing there. All these big gun sites, veteran sites, shooting club sites, it's all just being deleted. And where's the news on that? See, that's why you know it's really big. There's no coverage of this.
Which is why, in the end, we are going to have to fight this out in all fronts. Fight it out in the courts.
That's my next point. Trump needs an antitrust move. We need a new civil rights thing. We need to let these telecoms know and these Google to stop it, man. Instead, it's CNN and the New York Times bullying them like they're not doing enough. And then again, CNN admits they're running the operation to ban us. If that's not tortious interference, what is, Roger?
Well, more concerning is the fact that the president's son-in-law and his daughter are dining with Google executives. The president needs to wake up. perhaps they will never censor him, although I wouldn't bet on that.
Oh, they're deep sixing him everywhere.
Turn down the volume when they censor us. And this is all in preparation for 2018 and 2020. They intend to take it back, but first they must silence our megaphone. First they must close down our voice.
I agree. Give me a document, Cam.
Needs to order the Assistant Attorney General for Antitrust to bring an action against Google today. That's the short-term answer.
I'm going to draw a little graph here for people just as I see it in my mind. There's 2018. Okay, here's 2000 over here. 2010. 2015. This is about how the censorship's going. They test stuff. They do these things. Nothing really works. And now it's gone straight up. And you can see in the increments, it's just going to keep going. And total censorship's about right here. And so they've launched. They have launched, as you said, into 2018, into 2020 to shut everything down, Roger. I mean, it's on.
Does anyone really think that the temporary shutdown of the president's Twitter feed for 11 minutes, that the shutdown of Julian Assange, that the shutdown of Sean Hannity, that these were mistakes because someone spilled Coke on the keyboard? No, they were signs of strength and they were tests. They are showing what they can do. There are antitrust and monopoly issues. There are First Amendment issues. There are service contract issues. These all need to be explored in the courts, in the Congress, and in front of the administration. And our viewers need to recognize when you see a great story on Infowars and you like it, take the link and send it to everyone you know.
By the way, Roger,
they cannot silence all of us.
That's right. I'm so wound up. I've been interrupting a lot because I'm just so angry. But I'm not going to be interrupting any in the next hour because you're going to be hosting. But first, I've got a big announcement in the 4th hour. Spread the links, Infowars.com/show, and all the other live feeds, and tell folks about the local station you're listening to or watching. It's critical to get around the censors. Man, I tell you, Roger must have some gremlins over there in his system, or we do. But we're going to have Jack Posobiec hosting the 4th hour. Roger's got some technical issues. But he's absolutely right about what's happening. And, you know, here's the thing. They want to incrementally censor and censor and censor and censor and censor until, again, it's incremental. Everybody kind of gets tired of hearing about it. You know, that's a military tactic. It's got different names. But if you go back to the invasion of Panama in the late 1980s, it was in 1989, for 6 months, the military did probes in and out, and it would set off blanks and do stuff. So when they finally attacked, the Panamanian military stood down. And so it was a very decisive 2-day battle victory. And, of course, so they could get rid of their old drug dealer, bring in new drug dealers, get rid of Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega. And that's what's happening here. Is the globalists are probing, the media is probing, they're censoring, they're blocking, oh, we accidentally deleted Hannity a couple times. Oh, we accidentally, you know, delete Trump. Oh, we accidentally did this to you. Oh, and then we get the internal Veritas videos. And across the board, Google, subsidiary YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Oh, we just shadow ban the conservatives. They're so dumb they don't know that we don't let them talk but to 1% of their people. Then we have bots that attack them to make them feel alone. They think it's real people they're fighting. Well, I'll put like 100 bots on, you know, some little old lady, you know, who's tweeting. And they go, well, what do you ban little old ladies? Well, if she has an American flag, we put 100 bots on her to tell her she's scum and trash, and then she cries. And it's little weird leftist going, and the video's going, we depress them, we control them. And that's the whole culture, is that if you listen to Sean Parker of Facebook and others last year and this year that went public saying it's meant to hurt you, meant to make you alone, they said the person we mainly target is an SJW liberal who is desperate and feels all alone. And they've had other executives go public say the same thing. So, see, the leftists themselves are kept in a little depressed space and a little false reality, but certain ones with skills are taken out of the universities. First, they're taken into the internship, into everything to be typecast, analyzed, and then they're picked because they can then be taken in and they'll finally be put in charge of making everybody else depressed and bullying everybody else and having bots. And so they're running mainly bots to control leftists and keep them as the core food for their sponsors. So they've already got their cattle. They're domesticated cattle that most of them, half the public doesn't have jobs, never worked, is on welfare, but they're on Facebook. So they've got all these people to abuse and suck off of and try to get as much of their discretionary, income or EBT money as they can. And then some folks are taken out of that slave plantation and are made house slaves because then they can manage and keep them on the plantation while stopping any libertarian or conservative or nationalistic insurrection trying to free the slaves. So they just shadow ban you because they don't want you to get upset and go to a new platform or lawsuits or expose them. They just want you there under bot attack being demoralized. But because you know they're bot attacks and because you understand they're trying to demoralize you, you just keep gunning, keep firing, and we keep winning and beating the algorithms despite that, and they don't know what to do. And more of you are coming online every day. More of you are fighting back every day. More of you are taking action every day. And that's why they're panicking, is because they can't break your will. Well, I mean, they've only gotten the weak people. And I feel sorry for the weak. I'm not like a globalist kleptocrat that, sees these victims as food. I see them as very, very enslaved, sad people. Jack Posobiec is coming up. I'd announced Roger Stone. I was looking at my sheet wrong. I'm a little bit cross-eyed flustered here, to be honest with you. And so Jack, we're always honored to have him on. He lived in China before he, I guess, had another assignment in naval intelligence. And I want to get his take briefly before he takes over on Apple announcing they're going to be nationalized and be under the Chinese government. And I showed all the articles. That's really what they've announced. But the way they're announcing it's a little bit different. All right, Jack Posobiec, patriot, ran one of the biggest, Ron Paul, and still does, fan sites and grassroots organizations out there. And he's a veteran, naval intelligence, you name it. We'll give you his websites as well. It's very, very important that you visit those and that you also be able to follow those and check those out on Twitter at Jack Posobiec. And he doesn't have fake Twitter followers like the establishment does. We are in the middle of such an incredible time, but because he lived in China and has a lot of expertise on it, is asked to come on before to talk about China. I just want to give my research view and then get his expert view on this. China owns the most of our debt. The globalists made a decision in the last 30 years to transfer power there. They've got 98% of rare earth minerals. They have bought up much of Hollywood. In fact, they're the majority owner, if you add it all together, of the Hollywood studios. If you look at all of Hollywood Holdings is 100%. They are over 50% now. That's been reported. Even Vanity Fair has asked, will Trump break this up because of national security issues? Well, when you read Apple moves to store iCloud keys in China, raising human rights fears, it's an internet ID. It fits into the Chinese model of a world ID that they've already set up for their people that is a social score. So any criticism, anything they don't like, even not just being like a cult member, everything is wonderful when you're part of a team. Just being critical of anything lowers your stars. And then finally you can be kicked off the internet and then you don't get a job. And so you're put into a digital ghetto, a.k.a. a la Mark of the Beast. We reported on this in 2015. Now it was in the news the last month, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, that this is being adopted in the West. So Apple already has its slave factories through Foxconn with the suicide nets and 18-hour workdays and forced abortions and drugging, and they're trying to replace them with robots, but it doesn't work. That's all breaking down, and there are rivers that catch on fire and all the rest of it. And the globalists are using it to leverage out the West. And our secrets all been transferred to them, and they've got embedded in our chips that we make there, all sorts of stuff to take over our equipment. I mean, this is a nightmare situation. And now, just in plain view, Apple says, well, to do business there, we've got to place our cloud there and put Chinese companies and individuals, that means Chinese intelligence, in control. Came out last month that major universities like UT are run by the communist Chinese intelligence. I mean, we are wide open. It was just made legal since Clinton, even though not in law, to be a Chinese government agent and take over. So you can type that in, Chinese intelligence caught, taking control of UT. Even the Washington Post, even Jeff Bezos admits that. So here we are. The Russia thing isn't just a lie. It takes all our time up to distract us and to divert us and to get us off the rails about all these other subjects and the attack on the Second Amendment, the attack on free speech, and the purge of Infowars that CNN says they're running at YouTube. Next level. It's crazy to watch this and to see, even though Trump won, it looks like the Communist Chinese are moving forward with this takeover plan like the Chinese dictator said he'd do last year at Davos. He said, don't worry about Trump. He met with Juncker, the head of the unelected EU, 2 dictators. Can't make this up. And said, don't worry, we'll stop nationalism worldwide. We'll stop this. We'll have Chinese-backed globalism, which was always the plan. So how does every American not get behind Trump? Why would they get behind the communist Chinese that have the worst thing on earth you could ever imagine? Jack Sobek, you take over, or I'll jump in. I want to get your expert take on that. I know you have a full raft of issues to cover. Thank you.
Alex, I appreciate it, and you're absolutely right to call out what China is doing. You know, we sit here, we talk about Russia, their influence in the world, their meddling potentially in our elections, this collusion, canard, this lie that's been spread, but we never spend enough time talking about the communist Chinese, the way they're taking over our companies, the way they're taking over the world in roundabout, circuitous ways that aren't direct confrontation, but behind the scenes, China is gobbling up more and more power, more and more influence, and now more and more technology on the back end. They're getting these iCloud keys, these encryption keys. It is going to allow any Chinese government official, any of the bureaucrats, any of the Chinese intelligence, they don't have a FISA court that they have to worry about over there. They don't have the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. They don't have any of that stuff. And that is why this stuff starts in China. They move it, they push it over to China. They go over there because human rights are always abused in China. Human rights aren't even protected.
So they beta test, they protect it. So,
yes.
So this is the communist Chinese takeover of the internet, siding with the telecoms and siding with the big internet companies who are manufacturing their slave goods right there in China. I mean, this is true science fiction happening in 2018.
Yeah, this is stuff that if we talked about it anywhere other than China, they'd say we were crazy if this was going on. You turn around and say it's China, and they say, oh, don't worry about it. The Chinese have our best interests at heart, we're told. I don't think they do. The Chinese don't even have the best interests of their own people at heart. They have the interests of the communist leaders, the Politburo, and Xi Jinping, who's now fashioning himself to be a dictator because they're moving to remove term limits for the chairman of the Chinese party.
But the party elects him to begin with. It's a permanent a dictatorship of, what, 1,000 people? And the Central Committee, they then elect a dictator. So it just looks like he's even getting rid of them, basically.
Pretty much. There's 2 basic factions within the Chinese party. There's sort of the Beijing clique and the Shanghai clique. Xi Jinping, former Shanghai chairman, so he's sort of more from that southern clique. But that being said, it's one group of communists versus another group of communists. The people have no power in this. They have no say whatsoever. And in China, I want people to understand this. There's no separation between the business and government or government and the party. It's all connected. It's all one organization. It's not part of.
Well, when you bring in when you bring in the intelligence operatives of China to run the keys for everybody on the internet in China and outside of that in many cases, I mean, isn't that Apple becoming communist state run to a great extent?
Absolutely, because they're capitulating because they want into the Chinese market. They want to keep their relationship open with Foxconn. Everybody knows where your iPhones are made. Everybody knows where the iPads are made. And they're just going to keep moving slower. And then that's the key. China moves slowly. They move very slowly. So this move is a very big move for them because China doesn't think in terms of 2 years or 4 years. They think in terms of 50 years, 100 years.
All right. Well, great job. Keep breaking it down if you want, Jack. But it's scary that, you've been in naval intelligence and other things and lived in China. And you're just, I mean, but the CFR brags. The decision's been made. And then Trump, if the elite was even smart, would have supported him. He's just trying to bring balance for some type of brokerage or some type of leverage or some type of give and take with China. Instead, the establishments put their legs behind their ears here and are grabbed their ankles and just said, come in and run everything to the most evil group of people I've ever seen. And the left is just salivating, saying China will teach America. These people are crazy. I mean, they would the average leftist, they don't have welfare in China. Describe that for people and then take over. God bless you.
Yeah, Alex, what people also don't understand is that China is a system by which there are no human rights to speak of. You don't have property rights. You can't own a home. You can't own your land. If they want you gone, they move you. They move your entire neighborhood. If they don't want your city there because they want to build a dam and they want to build a huge reservoir, then they They ship you out of your city. They kick you out. You're gone. You have to go live somewhere else. That's what they did with the Three Gorges Dam project. Entire cities were essentially flooded and leveled. And millions of people lost their homes. They were kicked out. Imagine then those people, the people who have no care whatsoever for human life or regard for the rights of the individual, to then come over and be given the keys to the kingdom, which is what Apple is specifically doing. They're giving you the keys to their iCloud devices. Now they're going to start with just the Chinese ones. They're saying, oh, it's only going to be used for Chinese users, so don't worry about it. Nobody else has anything to worry about. However, as we've seen in the past with Apple's track record, I think that definitely should be something that we should be absolutely skeptical of and hold them to account, because if they're allowing the backdoor access for the Chinese government for Chinese users, because we know, of course, they don't have this type of human rights violations, or excuse me, the protections that we have in the U.S. They don't have FISA courts. They don't have FISA rulings. They don't have any of this. What they have is unlimited power of a communist dictatorship. We don't have that in the United States. However, the left tries to institute it every single day, and that is why every single day we fight back against it here on Infowars. Make sure to stay tuned. I've got a lot of news to break up from CPAC, from all the other things that happened, so stay tuned. Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec in the host seat, in the hot seat here. Big fourth hour. So much we're breaking down. I spent the last weekend at CPAC here in Washington, D.C. We had CPAC. A lot of conservative speakers came out and talked. However, a lot of the never-Trumpers were there as well. So we said, you know what? I don't know if CPAC is the right venue for all of us, because they've got so many of these never-Trumpers there. I just don't know if it's the right spot. So we went around. We did a bunch of interviews. As we were walking around, people kept coming up to me. I couldn't go 5 feet in the CPAC hallway. Someone, Jack, let me get a selfie. Jack, I want to talk to you. Jack, can we do this interview? Jack, sit over here. You know, say this thing, say that thing. Reporters coming all over the place. So there's a big change happening at CPAC, but the conservative establishment, the Republican establishment, hasn't quite picked up on it yet. They're getting it. We are trying to teach them. We are going to teach them the same way that President Trump taught them about what it takes to win, what it takes to be an actual doer in life, and not just someone who has a strong verbal IQ, not just someone who has a strong, is good at talking. You have to be a doer, not just a talker, to succeed at life. And so that is why we decided to do something, as we say, and we went and held our own event called A Night for Freedom. We held a Night for Freedom over in Washington, D.C. Myself, Mike Cernovich, Stefan Molyneux, Milo Yiannopoulos came out, Jesse Lee Peterson from Newsmax. Absolutely amazing event, about 500 people there. Incredible, just incredible. However, Antifa also showed up. Antifa showed up themselves. Antifa came in, they were outside, they were chanting, they were screaming at us, protesting. We're inside having a great time. We're inside eating steak and having delicious adult beverages. Not myself, of course, but others were having delicious adult beverages. But you've got to hear these Antifa outside. We're going to play the beginning. They are screaming, and they are talking about getting guns. They are talking about the revolution. They are telling us to face the wall. Let's see if we have that clip right here very quickly so you guys can hear.
Revolution has come. It's time to pick up a gun. The revolution has come. It's time to pick up a gun. Revolution has come. It's time to pick up a gun.
Alerta! Alerta!
Antifascista!
Alerta! Alerta!
Antifascista!
Alerta! Alerta!
Antifascista!
Alerta! Alerta!
Antifascista!
You're the Nazi. You're the Nazi. You're a terrorist organization. Come out with no mask and put a tie on, bitch.
Are they leaving?
All right. Well, that's Antifa. You can see the rest of the video keeps going there. People saying, why do you come out in masks? You call us Nazis, but you come out with masks. And you hear those chants. We were told by the mainstream media that these people are peaceful and they're supposed to be liked and they're supposed to be taken care of. Well, I'm out there. A lot of my friends are out there as well. And you can hear them screaming at us. The revolution has come. It's time to pick up a gun. They later said, face the wall. These are not peaceful statements. This is not a political debate. This is not someone who's putting together discussion points and trying to figure out how to bring our country forward. They're saying the revolution has come. The revolution has come, and it's time to pick up a gun. Those are the words that were screamed at us by Antifa, a domestic terrorist organization as they've been described by the FBI and Homeland Security. They're screaming, it's time to pick up a gun. And yet the police, they weren't able to arrest them. Media won't even talk about it. Media just says, oh, there was a protest and people came out, and they don't even report anything we said inside. They don't report any of the speakers. They don't report any of the speeches. All they say is Antifa came to protest. Antifa stopped by to do a little protest, and you can see some of the video here. We're all standing there as they march with their communist flags, screaming for armed revolution in America. Now, fortunately, not too many of them came because we ran a little bit of a deception operation. We told them that our event was actually over in Maryland. So they all went over to Maryland thinking that it was over there, acting like a bunch of fools that they are. They went over to Maryland. They rode the bus because, of course, Antifa always gets bussed everywhere they go, and they can't actually afford to have their own cars. So they went over to Maryland, and then they found out that we were really all inside in D.C. So we come back to D.C. We had our great event there. Everybody was already inside, about maybe a dozen of them, and that's being generous. It is being generous to say a dozen of them showed up, and they started screaming for armed revolution in the United States. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I checked, that calling for an armed overthrow of the United States government was a crime. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I was in the Navy. I was an intel guy. We focus on collecting intelligence on terrorist organizations, of course, foreign ones, not these domestic ones like these guys. But if that were something that I heard people saying in another country, you can be darn sure I would be writing a report on it. And I would be saying, these guys are no joke. So we've been warned by the FBI. We've been warned by Homeland Security of more Antifa attacks. And now we have Antifa themselves coming out saying that there are going to be attacks and they want guns, armed insurrection, armed attacks against. And what were we even doing inside? What were we even doing inside? It was a wonderful event, a peaceful, fun event. We were talking about freedom in the United States. We were celebrating freedom, and a diverse event, I must add, because it's funny, we didn't actually plan for it to be diverse. That's not really something that we push for. We just want to have a fun event, a good event. And you looked at the crowd. We looked as we came in. It was a really diverse crowd. And then I went out to Antifa, and they were all white. Every single one of them. I could see, it's hard to tell, they've got those masks on, but from what I could tell, it seemed, you can see their hands and everything else, that they were white. So we actually at one point, we started chanting hashtag Antifa so white at them, because they are. They're actually less diverse than we were inside. And so what does that really go to tell you? What does that go to tell you when we've got people who are speaking that are minorities, Jewish, different religions, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, that actual melting pot idea of America that we used to all talk about, and we used to all agree that America was about the American culture, not multiculturalism. But then we've got Antifa, and they're all white. So they're actually the white soy boys of Antifa. We had one of them who tried to get in. He thought he would be cute. He thought he would be cute to try to get in. This guy, longtime Antifa DC operative, tried to get in because he bought a ticket under a fake name. So he got one of his friends to buy a ticket for him. And the friend then, I guess, gave him the ticket. But he didn't realize that we were doing one thing. We were checking IDs at the front door. See, I guess we can't do that at the polling place, but this is apparently, I guess, something that he learned from voting. We actually went and checked IDs, and we found that the name he gave us and the ticket that he showed us did not match the ID that he showed us. It didn't, and then the ID was clearly him. You could see in the picture, so we threw him out. We said, get out of here, you're done. We got our armed security to throw him out because our armed security protected us, wasn't the Broward sheriffs. They actually protected our event. They protected us. We had an amazing time. My wife was there. My whole family was there. Tons of people, so much energy, so many connections. This movement, ladies and gentlemen, is not going anywhere. The information war is being won, and it's being won by us. Stay tuned. Come back up. Big segment coming up. Jack Posobiec coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Here I am ensconced in the Beltway, in the swamp itself. It is swampy out there, and the crocodiles are out. The alligators, the snakes, they're all slithering around. But we've got President Trump in the White House. We've established a beachhead in the swamp, and that is so amazing. So we're here to support him, and we're here to also tell the truth about what's going on in our country, what's going on around the world, and what the mainstream media refuses to report. Now, one of the most heartbreaking stories of the month of February, one of the most heartbreaking stories we've ever had to cover, is this horrific school shooting down in Broward County, Florida. And as we learn more and more about this shooting, the psychopath, Nicholas Cruz, the fact that all of the warning signs were there on this guy, every single one of them. This kid was practically screaming to the world that he was going to commit an act like this. I'm not sure what else he could have done to tell people that he was going to do this. In fact, he stated on YouTube that he was going to do this under his real name. The FBI later came out and said they couldn't identify him, but he used his real name, so I'm not sure how they couldn't identify him. So many reports, so many warnings given to the FBI on him, including one time they called, I believe it was in January, just about a month before this happened, where one of the statements given was that he's into ISIS. Said that he was in ISIS, that he was enamored with ISIS and these Syrian rebel groups, and that was one of the things, along with this obsession with guns, that might drive him to do something. That FBI transcript of the report was released. However, no action was taken. His guns were not confiscated. He was not arrested or even brought in for questioning. So now it turns back to the Broward County Sheriff's Department, who we now learn visited his home many times, was called to his house many, many times. I've heard there's so many different numbers being thrown around. I've heard it was 23 times. I've heard it was 39 times. I've heard it was 44 times. The point is, they went to his house many, many times, okay? More than one or two. When you have the sheriffs brought to your house, okay, the sheriffs brought to your house once, you'd think that's a bit of an issue. Twice, you'd think that's a bit of an issue. 45 calls, 22 times, so many times they visited them, no action was taken whatsoever. So we've now started digging more into the Broward County Sheriff's Department to learn more about who these people are. And there is a shocking, I think a video that will be shocking to many of our viewers, a video from 2015 about a deputy sheriff who's in that same Broward County Sheriff's Office. Now, this guy's name is Nazar Hamza, and he is a leader of CARE. He is a leader of CARE, which is a Hamas-tied group. The deputy sheriff of Broward County. And I know the production team, we've got this video of him actually teaching the local mosque there how to use firearms, how to conduct themselves in an attack. Now, they've got a Second Amendment right, just like anyone else in the United States. They have the right to self-defense, and that is perfectly fine. But I think for a lot of people, they're wondering, now, and this is something for me, why is he pointing these dummy gums at them and flagging them like that, right? The first rule of firearm safety is you treat every gun, even a dummy gun, even a false gun, as if it is loaded. And he's breaking every single rule in the book when it comes to this. And so I think that relationship of this Hamas-tied CARE leader to the Broward Sheriff's Department, why he was deputized, why he was given this ability, this title within the Broward Sheriff's Department. What exactly is that relationship? Why do they have that relationship? No, I want to explain this to people. This is not someone who came up through the ranks as a sheriff in Broward County and then became a leader of CARE. It's the other way around. He was a leader of CARE first and then was deputized by the Broward County Sheriff. So what exactly is that relationship, and why? I mean, I've not heard of specific examples of deputization between CARE and other law enforcement entities. However, we do have to point out that this has been an ongoing trend and was certainly a trend that went on between 2008 to 2016 of CARE getting deeper and deeper ties with local law enforcement levels around the country. So here he is, Nazar Hamza. He's speaking as a deputy with the Broward County Sheriff's Office. He is a member of CARE, but also a leader of CARE, but also speaking as a member of the Broward Deputy Sheriff. So for people who are asking questions, for people who want to know why was it that we were first told 1, but now we learned it was 4 Broward County sheriffs, the same Broward County sheriffs that did not go into the building, that did not do anything to stop this horrible act. What exactly is going on in Broward County? Where are their priorities? What is their training? What are their standard operating procedures? And why is it that this sheriff, the Sheriff Israel of Broward County, he says they acted appropriately, they heard the gunfire, but they didn't go in, they didn't do anything. And I have to imagine, with that, they knew exactly what it was. If they have had any kind of firearms training, they would know that that was a rifle inside, and that inside a building that they were sworn to protect. And their response, quite frankly, was disgusting. To stay outside and to hide and to wait until other police from another town nearby eventually came and engaged and went into it. The investigation is still ongoing as to how this was actually pulled off, but the fact that they didn't even enter the building, I think, is shocking to a lot of people, and it certainly makes the case for the reason that we have the Second Amendment in the United States, the reason that we have the right to self-defense, and it certainly left the opening of saying, wait a minute, these are the people that we were told were going to protect our children, the most defenseless group that we have. I've got one on the way, right? My first kid. I'm about to have my first kid. And I don't want my first kid to be growing up in a country where we don't give them the protection they're supposed to have. And even when we do have someone, a school resource officer and sheriffs that are supposed to protect them, that when there's an active shooter going on and they do nothing. They do absolutely nothing. Now, CNN, before all of this came out, CNN put this guy up at a town hall, and they made him out to be a hero. They made him out to be this huge hero that was someone that we should all look up to. And then we later find out, after their huge, very highly produced, very highly polished town hall, that this guy has deep ties to Hillary Clinton, has deep ties to the Democrat Party, has deep ties to apparently CARE, Hamas-linked CARE, all of these organizations that really should make us ask some questions. And his statements coming out after this saying that everyone operated or acted appropriately, that there wasn't any issue that he had with the sheriffs, they haven't been fired, he refuses to resign. Well, there's now a very highly growing group of people saying that he should step down, that he should resign, that anyone in this should certainly have their actions reviewed. And I believe that Governor Rick Scott of Florida has finally announced that there is going to be an investigation into the Broward County Sheriff's response to what went on, to find out whether or not Pam Bondi was on Fox and Friends this morning. She said that she could not state whether or not a stand-down order was given at this time, but that she does know more, and heard that in her belief, she believed that they were being dishonest with her and possibly the governor. So there is now an investigation into this sheriff's department, and hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, we can get to a situation where we're protecting our kids, where we have school safety. That is all anybody wants. That is all anybody prays for. That is all anybody asks for, is that kids, when they're on their way to school and while they're in school, will be safe no matter what. Jack Posobiec hosting live, 4th hour. Come on back. Stick it here, Infowars. Oh, yeah. Here we go, folks. Jack Posobiec. Last segment, 4th hour, Infowars, live from here in Washington, D.C. Folks, there's so much that we're covering. There's so much news in the world today. There are so many threats to your liberty that we focus on and we talk about so often every day. But we also need to talk about threats to our health, because what good is our liberty if we don't have our health, right? And that is why there's so many specials going on right now at Infowars store that you can focus on getting your health up, that you can focus on protecting your health while you protect your liberty. One of the major sales that's going on right now is DNA Force. DNA Force, it's been dropped. I couldn't even believe this when they sent it over to me. 67% off on DNA Force. It's actually the lowest. I think we checked this. This is the lowest price it's ever been for DNA Force. 67% off, $49.95. $49.95, lowest price ever to try DNA Force. So this is your first time trial price. If you've never tried it before, if you've never had it, over 1,000 reviews, 96% of respondents with a 4.8 score 96% would recommend. This is the game-changing formula for antioxidants to help healthy cells. It is rocking the nutraceutical industry. This is how you help your cells. This is to help with all of it. Then another huge sale, 50% off. They've changed the formula. It's back. The True Whey protein. True Whey protein, it's a new manufacturer, and there's going to be a 50% off. Folks, we want you to experience the raw power that is True Whey protein. It's a grass-fed whey protein. It contains all 9 essential amino acids. Your body needs it. Now, this is the vanilla flavor. There's other flavors you can get out. It's about 20 grams of protein per serving. Now, when I work out, when I lift weights, I love to lift weights. I love to pump up the iron, get that really, that max rep. Then when I'm done, you have the protein, you have a shake, you get it in. Usually I'll wait about 20, 30 minutes after, but within that first 20, 30 minutes, that's when I want to get the protein. So it goes straight to my muscles right as they're in that replenishment phase. So all of the nutrients can go directly to where I need it. And that's what you need, folks. That is exactly what you need. And even if not, it's a great way to wake up in the morning. You can get your dietary supplement. You can get all the protein that you're going to need for the day. You have it right in the morning. Boom, you have your shake. It's amazing. That is some of just the amazing specials that are going on sale this week at InfoWarsStore.com. A lot of the sales have shifted. A lot of the sales have changed, and that's why you've got to go. If you want to get these, folks, if you want to take advantage of these sales, you've got to act quickly, because if any of these products, these specific products that are on sale now, go and get them. Make sure you get them today. Get them this week. Why not just go now? Why not just go now? Because otherwise, you're going to miss out. The sales will switch, and you're going to miss out. So please go to InfoWarsStore.com. Support yourself, support your health, and support us in our fight for liberty. So, folks, the last story that I really wanted to focus on today, I mentioned earlier at the top of the hour that we had a great discussion. We had a great event, sort of a CPAC after party that we called A Night for Freedom. And you can go to check that out at anightforfreedom.com. But one of the speakers there was a man by the name of Gabe Hoffman. And Gabe is the documentary filmmaker. He made the film An Open Secret. An Open Secret is a documentary that's been viewed over 4 million times now on Vimeo. It's all about the child abuse that goes on in Hollywood. Gabe has now launched a new petition. And folks, if you're interested, Gabe needs your help. They're calling for the Trump White House to appoint a presidential commission on child sex abuse in America. Now, what they need is 100,000 signatures within 30 days. So it's right there at petitions.whitehouse.gov. If you want to go there, if you want to help out, An Open Secret, Gabe Hoffman, he's done so much work in exposing the rampant abuse that does go on in Hollywood. His movie, it's heartbreaking to watch, but it's so important. So we're learning about now the failures at the federal, state, and local levels. And Gabe, we had a great discussion with him, a great discussion at the event. He broke down so much of this stuff. He told us that he's actually taking his Open Secret documentary, the one that's already been viewed 4 million times. He's now going to be moving it into a new phase where he's producing more documentary content, where he's going to be doing more investigations, where he's going to be doing more and more exposing of what's going on in Hollywood. He gave us a little bit of a preview of that over the weekend. However, I'm not at liberty to say, shall I say, about what is going on and what is coming next, but there's going to be more. And instead of that feature-length documentary, it's going to be shorter clips, but all of it highly researched, highly sourced. He's got the people actually on tape, in some cases actually admitting to what they've done, people who have been convicted, and that's the whole point, people who have actually been convicted of crimes against children that are now still working with children in Hollywood. How does that make any sense? Or people who get convicted, but they have a sentence of only 6 months. How does that make any sense for crimes against the most vulnerable ones in our society? You know, we're talking right now so much about children and children's safety in the wake of the horrific school shooting. Well, why are we not talking about this angle of school safety, or excuse me, child safety, when it comes to the abuse that was going on in Hollywood, the child abuse, people who are actually convicted? And what he does in the documentary is he has the victims come forward themselves when they can, when they're willing, when they want to, they will come out and tell their stories. They'll tell their stories in hopes that this ring, that this abuse will be stopped. Now, one of the reasons that it's so hard to go after this is because the mainstream media doesn't touch it, because the House, the Senate do not touch it. Gabe has spent years doing interviews, doing videos, talking to people about all of this, and the mainstream media refuses to talk about it. The House refuses to bring it up. So that's why he's now going to our president. And what president other than President Trump would actually appoint a commission to study this? So it will elevate this to the highest level. Everyone will be able to see what's going on. Everyone will be able to see the truth, and will absolutely see the truth. And we think that with President Trump's endorsement of a commission to study what's going on, not just in Hollywood, but child abuse that's going on around the country, the horrific child trafficking. There's so many bills that are actually in the Senate and in the House right now to focus on child trafficking and the fact that millions and millions of dollars are spent every year right here in the United States in the child trafficking industry. This is a huge issue, not only in terms of how it's a form of modern day child slavery, but in terms of how we need to move forward to combat new forms of child abuse, to combat new forms of the ways that people are using the internet, or people are using these horrific power structures in places like Hollywood to continue their proximity to children, to continue working in these industries, even after being convicted of crimes against children. Show me any other industry where that would take place. Show me any other industry where if people are convicted of this, they'd be put around children. That's not going to happen in your kindergarten. That's not going to happen in your first grades, right? That would never happen. There's no school in America that would do this, but Hollywood has no problem with it whatsoever. So that is why this story, and it's certainly a story that people, it's hard to hear, right? It's a hard topic to discuss, but that's why Gabe is leading the charge with his team and his amazing group. And if you haven't seen it, go watch An Open Secret. You can find it. You can look it up on DuckDuckGo. Of course, we don't use that big G word. We don't want to use that because we don't like the tracking. Go ahead and check it out. Listen to their own words. Listen to the sources, the survivors, the people that lived through this horror. Hopefully we can get Gabe on the show. I've got a good connection with Gabe now. I've got a way that I'm able to talk to him. Maybe we can do a little bit more. Actually have, kind of a sit-down interview or a special feature on all of this and the petition as it goes on. So for myself, Jack Posobiec, the entire Posobiec family, we urge you to go and sign this petition. We urge you to stay tuned for Infowars coming up next with Owen, all of the great news that he's going to expose. He's going to break down so much of what's going on and stay ahead of the curve so you can stay ahead of the curve. And that's why you watch Infowars, because what we report today, the mainstream media probably reports in 3 or 4 days or never will. Thanks so much, folks. Jack Posobiec right here live from Washington, D.C.
range turns bloody in Berkeley. Our KPIX5 crews were right in the middle of the chaos as both Trump supporters and anti-Trump activists come to blows.
Protesters followed Trump supporters to their cars as they left the convention center. Around the corner and away from police protection on San Carlos Street, a mob mentality took over.
You voted Trump! You voted Trump! Oh, yeah!
What do you say to the people who dragged a poor white guy out of a car and beat him?
Oh my goodness, poor white people, please, oh my, stop.
These were pure attacks. Trump supporters, men, women, even the elderly, left this building last night and walked right into danger.
This Trump supporter was the first casualty of the day, with blood streaming out of his face.
Pro-Trump and anti-Trump protesters got into it.
They're throwing things at the guy who has a Trump shirt on. Oh, he just got knocked in the back of the head. He just got punched in the face. And now they're rushing him.
We're saying if you're out there and you're trying to represent your First Amendment right to free speech, if somebody comes and attacks you, it's your right to defend yourself.
It got ugly. Violence erupting at the event as fights broke out, fists flying between Trump supporters and anti-Trump supporters. It gets pretty ugly.
Yeah, I want to warn the folks watching at home, you're about to see some very violent footage.
Do you want to fight? You better believe you got one!
Organizers say today's rallies were meant as a show of unity against what they call a seditious fringe, allegedly trying to sabotage the president.
You can see there a FedEx delivery driver jumping in to try to put an end to the protest.
You don't like, get the
It's the strength in numbers. I'll give it to 8 libs. You want to come at, you better be 100 of you against 1 of me, because that's what it's going to take.
This is the heart of 1776. You the one backing up.
Over a year in the making, produced by one of the top organic firms in the country, that if you want proven studies and documentation, I mean, I can speak for hours just on the files I have here, of what this is proven to do, the ingredients in this. This is the ultimate immune system boost for this time of year, any time of the year. But Immune Wall is incredible. And folks, other formulas that aren't even as good are $70, $80. It's a great deal at $39. Immune Wall, beta-glucans, olive leaf, and so much more. It is concentrated. You need to go read what is in here. The mushroom blend of the most expensive, highest quality mushrooms that just incredibly accelerate. A citrus peel blend. I mean, this is the next level. It's now available, ladies and gentlemen, Immune Wall. I think it's beyond seasonal. Beta, glucan, olive leaf, and more. Immune Wall, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139.